Now that looks, the second one looks awesome. Sorry.
Yeah, Saturday Night at the Atheist, and with an intro like that, we better have some answers in atheism.
I know. I feel obligated now. Let me go get my thesaurus and my encyclopedia of Bible terms or something.
Yeah.
And I kind of, when that one plays, I kind of sit up straighter. Have you noticed that?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, you do look straighter.
Whoa.
Anyway,
stuff, guys.
So Amy and Cell and Rage are over on Modern Day Debate having a debate. Yeah. So I tuned in late, so I didn't really see it.
Well, it sounds like John is disgusted with Nakasuchi, and Sal is trying to be, the affirming, good cop theist, by trying to identify with Amy at least.
John who?
I'm sorry, Maddox.
Oh, really? He's over there too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I didn't notice.
I can't remember what he looks like, though.
I didn't really notice.
Yeah.
But I love listening to Amy, so it's always cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But looks like they're talking about anti-theism, and I'm an anti-theist for intellectual reasons, I guess.
I just want to bring it up again. We talked about this before the thing started, but I kind of admire people who were able to think critically and think for themselves at a younger age, because man, I went for many, many years just accepting Christianity and the tenets of Christianity without, I would know that there were things that other people had trouble with in the Bible and would kind of understand why. But, for people to say, even if this God is real, I just can't do this. I just can't worship a God who would allow slavery, or if it were true, to flood the world and not discriminate between those who are innocent and those who are not. It's just a quality I admire in people.
Yeah, an interesting position. I was brought up in a home where my mom went to church for social reasons mostly, and my dad hated the Catholic Church because they refused to bury my grandmother because they were like Serbian, Orthodox Christians, or there was some problem there, so they refused to have a funeral for my grandmother. So my father hated the church after that. So he was like really down on the Catholic Church.
Which church was it that refused to?
Catholic. Some regular
Roman
Catholic.
Okay.
Yeah, it must have been Roman Catholic. And
wow.
Yeah, that was interesting. And so that's the environment I grew up in. And I don't think anybody ever, I went to church and I listened to the stories, and I guess they didn't make a lot of sense to me. They certainly didn't entertain me in any way. They seemed kind of dull and threadbare as far as fiction goes. So I just never got into it. But if I had been brought up in a home where my parents had, indoctrinated me daily with belief, I would have, definitely been a believer too. I think I would have listened to my parents from the age of 1 to 8. I was around 8 when I started rebelling a little bit.
I was always stubborn.
Yeah. So, if you I brought my kids up to believe in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and dragons in the basement, and they bought it until they were 6 years old. And then they started thinking, and they said, "Dad's fucking with us." There aren't really two dragons living in the basement.
But see, that's you brought up a good point. Like why is it that that a society we make kids believe in Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy, and then it gets to a point where we say they don't exist. But when it comes to God, it's just like,
Yeah,
okay,
they
you
never,
know what?
yeah,
God exists. You
yeah,
know what I
they
mean?
never tell them.
Cosmic teapot.
Yeah,
I mean, okay, Russell, calm down.
yep.
I was also gonna say, doesn't hate come from anger and leads to suffering?
Yes.
I mean, hate
Anyone
comes
get
from
that
anger.
Very wise words there, rational empiricist.
Well, anger is a little okay. I mean, we all get angry. Like if we stub our toe on a chair, right? We get angry at the chair. Or if a bear is coming after us, we get angry, scared at the same time. But there is something in addition to anger called resentment, which is when you start to think, oh, this other person got away with doing something to me, and I have to think about it over and over again and keep getting more angry. So, I mean, having a flash of anger, that's a normal and good human emotion. It's what you do with it next, because anger, unless a bear is really chasing you, will only last for about 10 seconds. Unless you're really in danger, your anger won't last that long. Well, if your kid does something that almost gets himself
I
killed.
mean, why are you confusing fear with anger?
Because they pretty much stem from the same source, fear and anger. Like what happens to a parent when, I don't know, Scott, you're a parent, so you probably know this, but when your kid
Hey,
does
so are
something,
you.
yeah, when your kid does something that almost gets him killed, you feel this flash of fear, and it turns into anger, and then you'll yell at him, right?
Well, yeah, but at the time, yeah,
Get off the fucking road.
yeah, but at the
Sorry,
So, I mean, but those are like raw and pure emotions, and there's no problem with that. But then if you went away and you spent the next 2 days berating your kid for running across the road, and you wouldn't let it go, or you're mad at your neighbor because he didn't mow that little strip of lawn that you think belongs to him, or something like that, and then you sit around and cogitate on it, you end up with something called resentment, which is a lot worse than anger. And that's what eats your soul. And that's what makes you unhappy, is when you resent somebody. I mean, you have to look at what they did. There was a man who did something really horrible to me last year. And there's no way that I'm going to hate that man or resent him for the rest of my life. I prefer instead to humanize him and to figure out, what exactly the nature of his life was. So I'm not going to sit around and resent it for the rest of my life.
I mean,
because resentment is a poison that you drink hoping the other person will die, which is about the wisest thing I've ever heard about resentment, right?
Yeah.
See, that's very wise, but I'm kind of disappointed in you now.
In what manner?
You didn't get my movie reference.
So shit.
Yeah, Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Oh, I didn't get it. Shit. I should have
failed
got it.
Speed.
I mean, you should have. You should have gotten it more than us, since you're like 90. Sorry.
Okay, what was it again? What was the movie ref? I missed it entirely.
Okay, the full movie reference is fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. Anyone take a guess who said that?
That big, huge, weird-looking floppy-eared thing, or pointy-eared thing. What's his name?
No, it was Yoda.
Yeah, Yoda.
Well, that's what we was thinking about.
Yeah, I was thinking about Yoda.
Oh,
pretty sure
we
Yoda
obviously don't have the same idea of what Yoda looks like, but okay.
Yeah, I can't. Well, he had, what kind of ears did he have? He had perky ears, like a little dog. I don't know. I can't remember what Yoda looked like. It's been a long time, dude. It's like that movie came out in like what, 82 or something like that.
No, 77.
Oh, it's late 70s, yeah. Yeah,
Well,
77. Yeah, it was when I was in high school. That's true.
Yeah, I saw it in the 70s at a giant theater down on what the fuck was it? 169? No, Highway 100. It was they had a theater with a screen that was just gigantic. This one of these wraparound screens, and my ex and me went there, and we couldn't. It was packed, so we had to sit in the second row. So we were in the second row in front of this like 80-foot wide screen, looking back and forth, trying to absorb that movie. And when I got out of the movie, it was actually the first really good animation that we ever had in a movie. So when I got out of the movie, I had to drive and get on the freeway. I kept wanting to pull my wheel up, so I could lift off and take off. It was a weird experience because you were immersed in the movie, and it was just so fucking good compared to what we had been dealing with up to that time. So
off topic. Off topic. Science fiction question. Do you guys think we'll ever, supposedly, or some people claim that just like the sound barrier will break the speed of light barrier?
I mean,
I don't think so.
What's that?
No, won't happen. No, it won't happen.
Thank you.
You're sure about that?
I don't think so either. No,
because nothing travels beyond the speed of light. Things travel at the speed of light, like photons do, but nothing goes beyond the speed of light.
It has to do with the geometry of the universe. There's no breaking it, right?
I mean, true, but at the same time, we don't know everything about it. So who knows? Maybe maybe there's a situation where that happens.
Yeah.
Hey, if we can get Orge to come in, can we do a replay of that? Was it SFT who had that geologist on?
Yeah.
Talking about the Ice Age and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Am I bringing too many bad memories back? I would really like to get his reactions to it.
Yep.
Oh, I haven't seen it. SFT brings a geologist on there, and
yeah,
I don't know what they're saying.
He's a weatherman. Let's call it like it is.
Okay.
Okay. I might be stupid, but how the hell does an ice age occur like right after the flood in the young Earth model?
Because it was. He's got a lot of things. Well, there was a lot of humidity in the air, right?
And then there was. He believed in the big water firmament, didn't he?
He thinks the average temperature of the ocean was 30 degrees centigrade. Right?
That makes sense.
I'm not quite sure. Well, either way, it's stupid because it's either 30 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's really kind of cold. I know in certain places it's freezing water, but it's not that way all over the globe. And then 30 degrees Celsius would be just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, coral wouldn't have made it. Most ocean life wouldn't have survived.
I was just going to say, Immutable, you posed a question, and everyone knows that you're not allowed to ask questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Apparently, just don't understand thermodynamics or anything like that, but yeah, okay.
What was your question?
How does an ice age...
Oh, yeah, okay.
How did an ice age occur right after the global flood in their model?
Yeah. Well,
Orge's teasing us.
Okay, what did they say? Okay, the ocean was hot, and what the hell? Or no, did he say the ocean was cold? I don't know what he said. It was just a bunch of
Yeah, I don't remember, and it's stuff I could not confirm, and that's one of those things too. If you're not a geology major or somebody who just really loves reading about geology, it's just one of those things where they'll say things and you don't know how to confirm it or disconfirm it, and it would take you a long time. The answer's out there, but it would take you a long time to get to it.
Can I pose an analogy, perhaps?
Well, why, of course, sir. Share your analogy.
Okay, so everyone imagine some like building blocks, or like the blocks you used to play, or you may have played with as you were a child, and now stack them on top of each other. Huh?
I still play with Legos. Nothing wrong with that.
No, I'm not talking about Legos. I'm talking about like blocks with. Anyways.
No. Okay, go ahead.
Take the blocks, stack them on top of each other, and then pour some super glue on it, and then put a big tarp over it and sprinkle some glitter over it. Behold, the young Earth creation model.
Oh, we ought to build one of those. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they won't
do
give us a model, so I guess we have to make one
for
based
them.
on what they've said.
Yeah.
You know, I'm surprised, honestly, that Sal thinks that his model, well, that his idea is a model, because I was gonna say this to Sal, like, when we were talking, but even if he could account for the same things evolution does, he doesn't have a theory.
Yeah. Did you watch our stream on him today?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, we did pretty good, I think.
Yeah, I've
pretty
been
much.
a little under the weather. Having got the second part of the vaccine, my body is dealing with it.
Yep.
I'm gonna
So-
address Leo because he hasn't said anything so far. What's up, Leo?
Hey, Leo.
How goes it?
You're
wanna
not
talk-
down or anything, are you? You doing okay, sir?
Yeah, I'm fine. Why?
So,
No, you just seem a little less animated than normal.
so Leo and immutable, the Riemann series theorems, you know, were
The Riemann conjecture?
yeah, is that what they call it? Anyway, Sel says that he said that basically that proves free will because depending on how you put the numbers together, you'll end up with a different convergent real number.
What?
You're talking about the Riemann series theorem.
Yep, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the zeta function and like the conjecture made about it regarding primes?
No, the Riemann series theorem.
No. Okay, the Riemann. Yeah.
Here, hold on. I'll just hold on here a quick second.
Okay.
About how you can't change the order of like terms in an infinite sum type of thing.
Well, seems to think that if you change the order of the terms, that you can end up with a different result based on free will.
Oh. You can end up with a different result, but it's not because of free will.
It's because you have a different series, right?
It's because of the fact that, like, that when you change the order of the sum in certain terms, right? Sometimes the sum grows quicker. Like,
Well,
because
not the order, but the number of terms. The way you design the terms, like if you have two negative terms and a positive term, you'll end up with one number. If you have two negative terms and three positive terms, you'll end up with another.
I think it's because of the fact, like, that the partial sum itself overall increases. Like, if you manipulate the sum.
Yeah, but it wouldn't, like, where's it going to increase? I mean, if you just change the order, like if you put the plus and the minus, a plus minus, and then a minus minus minus, you'd have four minuses, one plus, right?
Right, but remember that, like with summation, right? That the sum, especially for infinite sums, the sum isn't computed simultaneously, right? You're computing term by term.
Right.
Right. So what's being manipulated is how quickly or slowly terms are growing relative to another.
Okay, so back to my example. Okay, we have a plus plus and a minus minus, right?
Really quickly, can we watch the video or the clip or whatever it is where Sal says this?
I can find
if
it.
this gets into like real analysis kind of shit, which I'm not
It
even
gets awful close to a subject I wanted to ignore, but let me find it for you. I'll mute while I search for it. You guys carry on.
So, Leo, why would you lower yourself to flat Earth?
I'm not a flat earther. What are you talking about?
No. Why would you?
eating flat Earth.
Yeah, that's I misphrased it.
Mainly because of who was on my side. And Paul Camish and Dapper Dino there, so I figured, yeah, I'll jump in. They need somebody else.
I mean, all right.
I've seen Paul Camish around here and there, but he hasn't been around that long, I don't think. I don't know where the channel.
No, he's been around for, I'd say, maybe 5-6 months, something like that. Maybe 7.
What's he mainly targeting? Like anti-science or?
Well, yeah, he just does a lot of addressing creationists and flat earthers and things like that.
Speaking of which, I think I might have found a new issue with Standing for Truth, like design diversity thing.
His what?
Oh, Standing for Truth has like this interesting little theory about like how it is that when you have a population of 2 people at the beginning of creation, you don't like you can still have speciation and like enough genetic diversity to like populate the planet within 6 to 10,000 years.
Oh.
How? How?
Special super duper
how?
gene.
Yeah, it's that's a fair question. I don't know how it works. It doesn't work.
Like it's just how.
That's
That's
exactly
that's all
that.
you gotta ask. It's just how. That's
Super
what
God genes. That's all you have to say. Super God genes.
Well, Standing, if I'm not mistaken, he seems to think that like God created these individuals with like every possible variation of an allele.
See what I'm talking about? Super glue.
Yeah, the thing is, like, that's physically impossible.
As it's it doesn't stop the creationists. They are immutable.
Hey, you know what? A lot of creationists are already out of touch with reality, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Yes. They
You know, I
are.
also unrelated. I also did a just kind of a quick Google search of free will and Riemann theorem series or whatever, and there's nothing. There's nothing. Nobody else
Did you
talks about
expect?
free will with the theorem.
But how does that even make? What does free will have to do with it? Jesus fucking Christ, Sal.
Who knows? Who knows?
He might be bringing that up simply because, like, depending on how you manipulate the sum, like, you can get whatever value you want to out of the sum.
What does that have to do with free will, though?
Yeah.
Freely choose like the order of the sum, and that somehow proves God or whatever.
Yeah, but if you're freely choosing the order of the sum, then you're presupposing free will, which is what we're trying to establish. So I don't know where Sal thought he was going with that, but it looks like a pretty short dead end to me.
Oh, hey, look, you know, I like talking with the guy. I think he's respectful and all that.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I just don't know, like, regarding like some of his ideas, like where to.
I mean,
where the
Matt
fuck
Slick
was
is
it?
respectable, but you know,
No, I mean he is. Yes.
I know. I was just making a joke how he's respectable, but from what I've seen, he's also how do I put this? Duplicitous, slimy, whatever the hell you want to say it.
He's
Oh,
manipulated conversations certain times.
Yeah, there was a bit of complete misunderstanding of mathematics in our debate last night as well. So
yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
Leo, a lot of people don't understand mathematics, and they're also proud that they don't understand it. Like, I'm too lazy to study math. Like, so wait, you're proud of being lazy to study math?
No,
But it's another discussion.
thing is, like, math gets fucking hard, even at like the
Yeah,
more
no
basic
shit. So what though?
Well, there's interesting like conversations and controversies in like mathematical communities between like constructivists and people that are less sympathetic towards constructivism. That's just a dumpster fire.
I mean, for me, I know that mathematics can get hard, but it's like one of those things. Ooh, a challenge.
yeah, I mean, it's like, Leo, you've heard of like the Riemann conjecture, right? Regarding like the zeta hypothesis.
the what?
Regarding the zeta function.
What regarding the zeta function?
The hypothesis concerning the zeta function.
No,
About how,
I mean I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
the only zeros, so it relates to primes in a very unusual way. But essentially, it's saying that the Riemann zeta function only has zeros on the on a segment of like the real number line where the real part is 1/2. If you Google like the Riemann hypothesis and the zeta function, you'll
Wiki has a good article on it.
Isn't there a
Okay, so
hold on here? Can't even spell right.
It's kind of a mind fucker, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. This is one of the Millennium Prizes, the Riemann hypothesis.
Okay, so You guys want to hear this?
Sure.
I think I found it. We'll see.
The issue. I did point out that we had this discussion, free will or determinism. I actually think there's free will and determinism. Free
So
will
that's
and
compatibilism.
Reality
Yeah.
has
Danny Kins
definitely suggestions of determinism. The question is there free will kind of mixed in there? In mathematics, we have lots of determinism when we're doing finite summations of numbers. But once we get to infinite summations of numbers, and I provided a link for the Riemann series theorem, free will determines the way what that sum is. It's really kind of magical because you would normally think 2 plus 2 is a finite number of operations and it equals 4. But once you have an infinite number of numbers that you're adding up, depending on what the series is, it could be whatever you want. That is kind of unsettling, and it's a famous theorem by Riemann, so I provided a link.
Okay, do you agree that it can be whatever you want?
Yeah, it depends on how you arrange the terms in the sum.
Yeah, not how you arrange them, but how many of each you have.
I thought it was due to arrangement, but I could be wrong.
Well, it would. I mean, within a finite section, okay, you have to have a pattern of some sort, right? So you've got to have a formula that you get your numbers. It's going to be 1/2, or 1 plus 1/2 plus 1/3 plus 1/4.
Yeah, I mean, you could do something like 1 plus 1/2 minus 1/3 minus 1/4 plus whatever, right?
Yeah, but whichever way you arrange them, as long as you repeat that pattern over and over and take it to infinity, you're going to end up with the same number. It doesn't matter if you arrange them a little bit differently.
No, it does matter, actually. That's
okay. How does it matter?
That's the point.
Okay.
Part of it's because, like, to show convergence for a series, like, you have to show that there's, like, some kind of, like, least upper bound on the sum itself, right? And based on, like, the order of operations you're using to generate that sum, right, that bound can change.
Okay.
Of, like, the short version of it, without getting into... I think that's, like, the short version of it, without trying to get into, like, theories or theorems concerning infinite series and their convergence.
Looks like we're going to have to do this.
What are we doing?
Yeah,
Getting into some math.
I honestly say this is not my wheelhouse because I understand, like, certain forms of logic or certain forms of math, but not quite like real analysis. I do want to teach myself it, though.
So what is your wheelhouse?
I'd say calculus. I love calculus, and once you get the hang of it, it's pretty simple.
Derivatives or integrals?
I'd say I'm more of an integral kind of guy. I like integrals more than I like derivatives.
So you're into antiderivatives?
Okay, you see this right here, immutable? Okay, it depends on how many terms you have in the series. Like, okay, if you have 1 minus 1/2, okay, you can have 1 plus 1/2 or 1 minus 1. It doesn't matter how you order them. Okay, it only depends on how many negative and how many positive terms you have. And you're going to end up with ln p over q is going to be the convergence on that series, right? So, I mean, it doesn't matter if I were to put 2 positives first and then 2 negatives, or I were to put a positive, a negative, a positive, a negative, I would end up with a different value, that sort of thing, or the same value. It doesn't matter how you permute the minor part of the series, the actual pattern of the series, because it couldn't, when you think about it, right? When you're going to infinity, you're doing it over and over again. So how would that work? So if you did 1, what do we have here? Okay, get 1 plus 1/2 plus.
I have to whip out a real analysis.
Okay, if you have all positive numbers, it's gonna sum to infinity. It's gonna diverge. Okay, but if it's a convergent series, then you'll have a pattern, something like 1 plus 1/2 minus 1 plus 1/3 plus 1/4 minus 1/2. But it wouldn't matter if you took the 1/2 and put it in place of the 1/4. If you just moved it a little bit, as long as you kept the same pattern going, you would necessarily have to get the same result. It's not going to
Yeah,
change.
okay. Go to the top. Let's see. Definition: a series from a series. Sum from 1 to infinity of a sub n converges if there exists a value of L such that the sequence of the partial sums S1, S2, S3, da 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 da, such that Sn is the sum from k equals 1 to n of a sub k. Yeah. Okay. So this, yeah, essentially is what I thought it was.
Okay, but Cell is claiming that somehow with free will, you can pick a different series, of course, and you're going to end up with a different number, but it has a formula if you're dealing with, if you're dealing with this particular pattern. But there are other series too, I think. What do we got?
Yeah, so read the part under definitions, right? A series converges conditionally if the series from the sum from 1 to infinity of a sub n converges, but the sum from 1 to infinity of the absolute value of a sub n diverges.
Think of the partial sums converges to L, that is for any is greater than 0, there exists an integer n such that if n is greater than n, then
You don't like me, the bitch.
But it isn't going to matter how you order those particular numbers in your series, in your mini series, as long as you keep going to infinity with the same pattern. You're going to end up, with the same amount of negatives and the same amount of positives, depending on what. Okay, show me an example. Show me an example. Draw it out. Get your drawing pad out.
And it gives you an example.
Okay, give it to me.
So, what are we talking about? What's the disagreement? I'm zoning out.
Somehow, Immutable thinks it depends on how you order it.
If you go to the example, look at the alternating harmonic series.
So, are you in Sal's camp now, Immutable?
No, I'm just saying his point is entirely the point of this is to say that this is that the sum itself depends on the order of operations that are done with the series itself. Right? The sum itself depends on the order of operations, not how many terms are involved.
Okay. But it's going to create a pattern, and that pattern is going to have a certain amount of terms in it, right?
Right. The thing is, though, when you change the sum, you change the pattern that's occurring, and so when you construct a least upper bound for the sum or the series, right? The least upper bound changes because the pattern is changed for the series itself.
You're going to have to show me a real example.
It does go down a little bit. The alternating harmonic series.
1 plus 1/2 plus 3. Okay, that does not converge.
1/4. Right. Okay. Keep reading it. It gives an example of how the sum changes.
The pattern is first two terms are 1 minus 1/2. The sum is 1/2. The next term is minus 1/4. So it's going to wobble at the end as you approach it. If you go to infinity.
Yeah. So the thing is, this sum, right? If you change it from 1, if you change it to 1 minus 1/2 minus 1/4 plus 1/3 minus 1/6 minus 1/8 plus 1/5 minus 1/10 minus 1/12, right? If you change it in that way, what the sum will generate is ln of 2 divided by 2.
Whereas, you're going to end up with something different.
Right, but if you go with the original series, if you just do the normal series, which is -1 to the n plus 1 over to n, it converges to ln of 2.
Okay, I'm not seeing something. I'm going to have to look at it offline. Okay, I'll look at it tomorrow.
Yeah, look. In the ordinary harmonic series, which diverges, although in standard presentation, the alternating harmonic series converges to the ln of 2. Its terms can be arranged to converge to any number or even to diverge. One instance of this is as follows. Begin with the series within the usual order.
Those are two different series. Okay.
No, they're the same series.
Minus 1/4 minus 1. Okay, plus 1/3. And those two are different. Wow. That is bizarre. Yes,
because you've changed the order of the sum.
Okay, that is pretty fucked up.
Yeah, that's one of the most interesting mathematical results.
Yeah.
Because and that's one of the reasons, like when you deal with like infinite series, like for Taylor series expansions or something like that, you have to be very cautious about how you manipulate that series, because if you change the series, you get different functions.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna play with that tomorrow. Because you can get some sort of, well, okay, what does this one converge to? Whose sum is 1/2. So okay, this one so you should be able to do it with a computer, right?
The original sum converges to the ln of 2.
The
sum where the one where you're doing 1 minus 1/2 minus the 4th plus a 3rd minus the 5th minus or whatever it is converges to a half of that value.
Okay. Yeah, this is something new to me. This is cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play with it. Okay. So getting back to what Sel was saying. We'll get back to Sel's a little, and he says that it has something to do with the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which I'm sure Leo's gonna love.
It has nothing to do with that.
And by love, you mean you hate with such a passion that he's gonna, I don't know, but he's gonna hate it.
Okay.
To it, the Riemann rearrangement or the Riemann theories theorem. So that's an example where free will actually even appears in mathematics. So to the extent that physics parallels what we see in math, it's reasonable to say it fits. And then the reason I said that the neuroscience stuff, I don't think that's deep enough to determine if there's free will. I think the Bell's theorem in quantum mechanics says, okay, the way you choose what to observe determines. So there's a mix of determinism and free will, and we see it at the root of quantum mechanics.
Can I just say, for Danny Kins,
that's the way I lean too. And what I was talking about was more that the
Danny Kins. Okay, can I just say that it really pisses me off when people misrepresent quantum mechanics? I'm sure it pisses off Leo too.
Yep, a little bit. Where are we? 31, 47. So I got, okay, so I think, hang on a second. Let's just roll through John.
Will.
In what they choose. I mean, there are degrees as well.
Right.
He can grant people degrees of freedom in what they choose. I mean, there are times he'll set up a situation where you can't choose anything you want. You might have to.
And so
there might be limited choices.
Okay, I think he goes on right here with Danny. I'm not sure where he talks about the Heisenberg.
Danny who?
Let me explain my viewpoint. There is determinism, and I gave an example like 2 + 2 = 4 in the real number system.
What the fuck does that?
But also in the real number system, you have situations where you have an infinite series, and whichever way you choose to perceive it, it'll add up different.
Oh my God.
That's a very strange.
Danny Skin. I'm really curious if Sal has encountered modular arithmetic.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's systems of algebra or like algebraic structures where 2 + 2 can be 5. It can be, it can be 4. It can be anything you want it to be.
Yeah.
Right. But the reason it happens to be 2, like in our case, is because the algebraic structure that we use makes it so that 2 + 2 is 4 instead of some other weird value.
He says
2 + 2 is 5.
How you choose to perceive it alters the sum that it comes up with.
Well, no, it's how you arrange the terms relative to one another. It's nothing to do with how you perceive the sum.
Right. Now, you arrange the terms, of course, could be construed as free will, but they're never going to come out different for two different people if you both choose the same arrangement. So
no, it's not like somebody can choose a sum, right, using the exact same terms and arrive to a different result. That will never happen.
Right. That's what he thinks.
I think he could actually be put up on charges of raping Heisenberg there.
Yeah, and then somewhere in here he says,
"You mean Bell?"
Let's see if he talks about.
Who? Theorem I provided.
Bell's.
Yes, John Stuart Bell. Yes.
He also talks about Heisenberg here somewhere. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle.
Man, I really wish I could have been in there because I would have just immediately, hey, Sal, what is Bell's theorem?
Yeah. Okay. So
that's pretty deep quantum. Well, that's pretty. That's at least QM2 right there.
Yeah.
Maybe he has Bell's palsy. I don't know.
Bell's palsy. Okay. You want to hear what else he has to say, and then we'll just drop this and talk about something else.
Yeah.
The link, you can look at it. So, even an atheist mathematician said this is why he studied mathematics. This was different than the way we ordinarily understand reality. So I'm saying there is determinism plus free will. And
So he's a
even physicist
compatibilist.
Paul Davies said, yeah, there's
No,
determinism.
that's not what
plus-
he's saying. He's saying something else.
Are you sure?
Well, I think
Yeah.
he's saying I think he's like advocating the position of like compatibilism, which I would
Yeah.
actually.
That's
No,
what it sounds
he's,
like to me.
no, it's different than that. He's
How do you
actually
know?
saying there's free will because I listened to him. Because I listened to the whole
Well,
thing.
I just listened to what he said too, and it sounds like he's arguing that things can be deterministic and you can still have free will, which is compatibilism.
Listen to the whole
free
thing.
will. So what are deterministic systems? There's certain chemical reactions that we expect will have very predictable outcomes, and then there are things in the universe that we cannot predict. We have it even in the fundamentals of quantum mechanics. We call it Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. You cannot determine in advance, even if you have all the possible data, what the outcome's going to be. It's like nature's reality has a little bit of degree of capriciousness.
The reason
Can I ask a question about that? Because I have, and I could just be.
Were you going to pause
I'm
the
not a
video?
mathematician or a scientist,
Nope.
so I could just be.
Danny
confused,
Skin.
and that's fine. But I'm looking at this.
There,
Okay.
go ahead.
Thank
Jesus.
Yeah, the reason that occurs is because of an entirely deterministic theory called chaos theory. And chaos theory, the long and short of it says is that
Which is
this
ironic.
chaos, like this apparent like divergent behavior of ordinary things, occurs not because of like the systems itself, but it occurs as the result of like there being like uncertainty within measurements that are made. And what it renders to is essentially meaning that when you try to develop theories, if there's any ability of a system to be how am I going to say it? If there's any ability of an observer to make an error, your theory in the long run will not be accurate, because errors or perturbations in their measurement will cause it to diverge. And that's one of the reasons perturbation theory exists.
What the fuck?
Who's calling you?
No,
Take some medicine.
My alarm keeps going off, and I keep trying to tell it to stop, and it keeps doing something else. I don't know.
Why isn't it happening?
I don't know what's happening. Oh, I frequently set an alarm for 9:45, and it'll set it for PM, and then I say, 9:45 AM, and I forget to shut off the PM. Anyway, let's see what else he says. That's brilliant.
Riemann series theorem, and it doesn't look like it makes any sense, honestly. So it says, as an example, the theory is 1 minus 1 plus 1/2 plus 1/2
I
plus
remember
1/3,
hearing
or
this.
excuse me, 1 minus 1 plus 1/2 minus 1/2 plus 1/3 minus 1/3 plus converges to 0. That makes perfect sense, right? Because each of the numbers cancel out. All right, I'm with you. But replacing all terms with their absolute values gives 1 plus 1 plus 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 plus, which sums to infinity. But I don't understand how that sums to infinity at all. That, in fact, I can figure out that sums to 3 2/3. It's not that complicated. So
No.
what's the?
Because
I could just be
what you're-
confused. I don't understand how
Okay,
this.
so the
I'm not sure what did he give the regular series with all positives?
No, he's giving the absolute value of the series.
Okay. Anyway. Okay, so that was all it was, and I just thought it was a strange application of Riemann series to come up with free will from that depending on how you perceive it, it's going to be a different value. No, that's not going to happen at infinity. If the series is written in one form or the other, it's always going to come up with the same result.
Can I ask you guys a question? Do you think that Sal was trying his hardest not to say that consciousness causes collapse there? Because I feel like he was really trying hard not to say that.
Maybe he was. I don't know.
Yeah, he was wrong on Bell's theorem, and he was wrong on the uncertainty principle. So,
yeah. Anyway, I just caught that. I was falling asleep and I woke up and Sal was talking and I thought, what are you saying? What are you saying? He says things. Anyway. Other than that,
fair to say that like a lot of higher order mathematics, like real analysis that gets really into the foundations of calc and stuff, don't always make sense.
Yeah.
They take some effort to deal with.
What is it? What the fuck is it? I'm trying to think of. It's like a theory of polynomials and how they. What the hell is the name of it? It's a certain kind of analysis. What is it called? What am I thinking of? Not number theory, but what the fuck?
If you're talking analysis, there's a very select few that I've heard of. That's real analysis, complex analysis, functional analysis, statistical analysis.
It's even worse than that.
I don't know if I've heard of anything else.
Complex analysis?
Yeah, that's why I said that.
And don't forget psychoanalysis.
That's not a mathematic.
Oh, I thought we were just naming things that have analysis in it.
And
unfortunately,
I don't know what the fuck is going on in this debate right now, but holy shit, Maddox looks pissed like he always does.
Oh, really?
you mean to tell me Maddox looks like he's about to pass like a metaphorical brick?
Yes. Yes.
I'll have to check into it. See if I can grab an expression. What happened here? Something's frozen.
Of course not, Sal.
Yeah, he doesn't look any more pissed than he usually does. Maybe I'll have to back up a little bit. Oh, yeah. Okay. Got it. Anyway, how you doing, Danny?
I'm doing well. How about y'all?
We're all
doing good. I saw your video on Knock earlier. Couldn't agree more. He's Jesus.
Toxic.
He dived off the deep end.
What's going on? What happened?
We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, we do.
Well, I do
No,
want
we
to hear
don't.
about
No,
it. So
no,
what
we
happened?
do. Nope,
Yeah,
not here.
We only
Nope,
criticize
nope.
creationists.
Not here.
This is important to do.
I don't know what
No, it ain't.
okay, dude, what the fuck happened? It can't be that bad.
What
He got,
Go
he
ahead.
got some things wrong. He said some things.
Who
he
the
didn't
fuck are you guys talking about?
We're
Nobody.
talking about the raging atheist.
Oh, what did he do?
So a person on YouTube who used to be an atheist called the empathetic atheist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Justin,
converted
I think it is.
Yeah, he converted to Islam as a result of like being compelled by the Kalam cosmological argument. And Rage, instead of taking this maturely and just kind of accepting.
Do it on your own channel. I'm serious. Okay.
Wait, is there a reason?
I don't want to address it. Yeah, I don't want to address it.
Why can't we
Who
address
said,
it?
I
who
don't
said
wanna
anything
address
about,
it.
Who said anything
Okay.
about addressing it? I just want somebody to tell me what happened.
Go
I'm
watch
gonna-
it yourself. Go watch the last few.
Or
I'm
you
videos.
could just ask
Go watch
somebody
Danny's
to tell
video.
me.
Whatever you want to do.
You act like
Not
somebody got
addressing it.
murdered and that like your channel's going to get shut
Look,
down if it
I'm-
gets talked about.
I'm fine
I'm just
with
not
respecting-
addressing it.
I'm fine with.
I choose not to address it. Is that so? It's
What
so
is-
fucking hard to understand.
What is the issue with addressing information that's already been made public?
I don't really care. It's
I
not
was-
my not my
Why are
thing.
you kicking me out? I was saying I'm going to respect what you want to speak. I just want to know why. That's all.
Thank you. Okay.
I just want to know why.
I'm not going to tell you
cause
why.
drama?
It's not something I'm going to even
Well,
get
then
into.
it doesn't make sense to censor it.
It makes sense to do it if I want to do it, and I want to do it, and I'll move on, find something else to talk about.
I mean,
Talk about that guy's conversion. Tell me about that. Why did the guy convert to Islam?
I think
the long cosmological argument.
Oh my God.
That's why I told somebody just send him my way.
Okay, but why did he choose Islam over Christianity?
Probably I would guess like the Trinitarianism is probably a big issue for a lot of people. That like if you're comparing Islam and Christianity, I think the Trinity is just something not fun to deal with.
Okay, you just want one God or something like that.
Trinity makes I don't know. It could be my conception of the Trinity is like.
Oh yeah,
really-
Lena. I didn't tell anyone I'm married now. Did y'all know that?
You married Lena?
Married?
No, I'm married. I have a wife.
When did you marry your
I
wife?
thought you always had a wife.
No, Friday. I'm married her Friday.
Well, congratulations.
Wow,
Cool.
congrats.
Do you think you're special?
I am
You're
special.
pretty special. I think that's pretty special. Congratulations. Cool. God help you.
Congratulations, Danny.
God help me.
Yeah,
God help
that's
you.
what, that's what I told my son when he got married. God help you.
How long did it last, or is it still going?
Still going. God is still helping him, apparently.
Well, that's the only way people can survive relationships.
Who is this person?
Who is who person?
The one that I got on the screen here.
I have no idea.
Abiogenesis Solvate.
I'm assuming it is probably a troll.
It's probably Tony, but then again, that would mean that Tony has to be self-conscious.
I don't know. I don't know. It's somebody new.
But
Anyway.
Leo, that's the right response, right? Like something like, "Oh, let's talk to him about why the Kalam doesn't work." That's the response.
Yeah. I didn't see Nox's video, so I don't know what was in it. Apparently, it's so fucking bad. Apparently, what happened is so horrendous.
Okay, it wasn't that bad.
So absolutely
Oh my! For
He's
Leo,
talking about the situation. We're not addressing the empathetic atheist thing. God, Jesus.
You can address the empathetic atheist thing. I really don't care. I just
What?
don't want you
Hey,
talking
wait,
about
wait,
Knox
wait.
video. Just don't talk
we
about
can
his
address.
video.
We can
I
address.
didn't talk about a video.
Not Knock himself.
I'll sit here alone.
Apparently,
by
it was so
myself.
disgusting that we can't talk about it on another YouTube channel that like 10, 15 people have already done.
Leo, the video wasn't that bad. It was just a video.
I don't know if he took down like the stream before like his live stream, but the one before his live stream was bad.
People congratulating you. That is a cool thing. You didn't tell us that was coming. That is neat.
Yeah, we had it scheduled for Monday, but I don't like to talk about. I'm kind of been scarred with my personal life on Discord, so I don't like talking to them about it. So.
Yeah, but there are some events like if you have a baby, get married, things like that. You know.
If I had a child, I would tell none of you.
Hey guys,
you would tell Sel.
Hey David, how are you?
David. Hi.
There's lines in the secret I will draw, and that's one of them.
David.
Hey guys, what's up?
Hello, David.
Not much.
What are you doing?
Not a whole lot. So, just a quick announcement. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, I'm doing a live stream taking down Genesis apologetic stuff. They put yet another false DMCA claim against Aphrodite, and that just happened today. So I'm going to respond to a couple of their videos tomorrow. Everyone is welcome to join, and I sent you guys a link to the StreamYard and the Twitter thread. I hope you guys can come and join the stream.
Okay, it's going to be...
How big is that channel, by the way?
What was that?
How big is that channel, by the way?
Genesis Apologetics. They're a decent sized channel. And it says Apologetics. They are
111,000 subscribers.
Yeah, so they're a pretty big channel.
What's the channel?
Genesis Apologetics, 111K subscribers, 10.1 million views.
Yeah,
They
so
got,
they're
I think about 200 videos.
yeah, so
Okay.
they dwarf the Stanford for All Brain Trust.
Really? Wow.
So
So I put a link in the public chat for you, David.
okay, yeah, I was just about to do that. So thank you.
You can do it as many times as you want.
Awesome. I am going to actually make that a pin. Live stream tomorrow, taking down Genesis.
15 hours. So when is that exactly? What is that? Oh, that's at 12 o'clock.
That's 2 p.m. my time.
Okay.
2 p.m. Eastern. So you guys are welcome to join. It should be a lot of fun.
Okay.
And I think Genesis Apologetics is one of the worst creationist channels out there.
Which one's the best?
How would you rank them in comparison to like AIG or like some of the other like mainstream ones?
Oh boy, so that would be a fun tier list in and of itself. I would rank Interference and Genesis the best, and that's being generous, and ICR second. But again, that's being much more generous than what is warranted.
Yeah. I'd never heard of this thing before, and I just heard about it today. So anyway, they're doing copyright strikes based on how long a clip on fair use.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what they're doing, but it is pretty bad. I think they're just doing it to silence the critics. But in reality, I think that Standing for Truth also had a DMCA strike against him when.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they actually did go after Standing for Truth as well. So maybe it's not just atheists. So
yeah,
but again, it's fair use. So false DMCA strikes are bad. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
The first time they've done it, I mean, sometimes like some creationist channels are like really like notorious for doing that, and they get slammed really bad for people that watch their stuff. But
yeah,
like it's new management or whatever.
Yeah, it's all kinds of bad.
Yep. Wow, they got 111,000 subscribers. What the hell do they do? They've got a thing here on skin color in the Bible.
Oh yeah, that is a bucket load of bullshit. That is one of the things that I'm going to be talking about tomorrow.
Is that just a big old fat pile of race realism?
No, that's in relation, I think, to the created heterozygosity thing, where they argue that.
Yeah.
Wait. Genesis Apologetics is starting to use created heterozygosity?
I don't know. I'm guessing that's what it is.
I'll be right back.
Oh my god!
It's not just the Shem, Ham, and Japheth thing.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but I'll have to watch it. But yeah, that is definitely going to be coming up. That's one of the videos that I'll be responding to.
Well, don't they believe there's like a black gene and a white gene, and they mix together and create a brown?
Raw Matt does think that. Raw Matt thinks.
Yeah.
That,
so yeah.
The genes are responsible for skin coloration.
Yeah, and of course that's all kinds of wrong.
Well, for one thing, skin color is not the result of is not a result of gene expression. It's the result of a very long, complicated process.
Like if that were the case, one fourth of the people in the Middle East would be white, and 1/4 would be black.
Right.
And
look, when Raw Matt's document leaked, we already saw how good he was at math. Okay, he's right. Nobody needs to challenge him on his math and on the type of stuff like that he's putting forth.
Yeah, and this is why. Yeah, and this is why Standing for Truth never gives math. Like, I have never seen Standing for Truth present any mathematical arguments.
They don't understand math.
No, I think it's something even deeper.
Well, don't you know that math is just pure wizardry, right?
Yeah, it's nothing just wizardry. Equations are just magic spells. They're incantations,
Yeah, that was probably one of the most hilarious things I've ever heard.
What happened? I'm
so, don't tell him mutable. Don't tell him mutable. Let him figure it out.
No, I want to know.
Come on.
I'd like to know.
You'd like to know what?
I'd like to know what the references to.
So you didn't watch my debate last night, I see.
I really hate flippers, so
so you did not watch it. Well,
Wait,
then
you had a debate yesterday,
buddy. You're missing out, I guess.
Look, I have my own brand of stupid that I enjoy debating, and that is not one of them.
Yeah, I do not enjoy flat Earth debates that much, but that one was really entertaining. So, long story short, when pressed on mathematical equations and stuff like that, one of them flat out denied mathematics and said it's just wizardry.
Oh,
and I wish I was making.
I bought my new MacBook Pro.
Yeah, I have to wonder whether or not that it's just. I have to really wonder if they're just a bunch of pros.
What the fuck did you say, Danny?
I sought my new MacBook Pro.
Yeah. I guess Danny does not know how to read. Either that, or he is so focused on one small detail of this whole sentence that he can't look at all the other words, despite my poor handwriting, and figure out what the fuck is written on this goddamn iPad. And I'm not sure which one it is.
Clues are important, but it does kind of look like an ad.
Bro, you should
Yeah.
talk. Your fucking handwriting on your streams is like.
My handwriting is absolutely horrendous. I have
Oh,
no
so-
problem admitting that. I've said it numerous times in my videos.
I
I have
know.
horrendous handwriting.
I
So-
know.
so
And
my
I said
handwriting-
it. You're just gonna have to
Danny,
deal with it.
don't listen to haters. That's actually pretty decent.
Yeah, my handwriting is absolute shit. And that's
You
being
know-
generous.
You know what I blame on like ruining my handwriting? Mathematics.
Oh yeah.
No.
Because like integral calculus, like there's so much shit you have to repeat. It's like, oh, the integral of yada yada dt. Okay. Fuck, like we're still two pages down into this thing, and I still have to write it. And you just develop like shorthands for like little letters and numbers, and it's like, God, can I get an answer to this thing already?
Get an answer to one thing.
Go to
Clearly none
Genesis
of you
if you want
like
an answer.
integral calculus.
What?
Go to Genesis if you want an answer.
Sure.
Go to
All the best
Genesis.
answers.
Go to
Oh,
atheist.
by the way, Otangelo has officially gone full blown pre-sup.
Oh
Yep.
no, I actually had faith that he wouldn't do that, and now my
No.
So
faith
that's why he doesn't come around anymore, then, huh?
Yeah, he's
he's
missing.
gone full blown pre-sup.
Yeah, you gotta believe in
Dark
Santa
turn.
Claus.
Does he just hang around on Discord now instead of YouTube?
I don't know. I mean,
I
I
haven't
would.
seen him in any of the servers I go into, but
No, he hasn't been.
He
Maybe
was
he's
on
born
Jefferson
again.
Matchbox channel today when Darth Dawkins got on there.
he was where?
On Jefferson Spatchcock's channel, Jefferson did some sort of
Yeah, he did a review. PZ
review
Myers
of
versus
PZ
Darth
Myers
Dawkins.
and Darth Dawkins, and
Yeah.
then later on Darth got on there, and then Otangelo got on there.
So all I need to do is like do a review of like my debate with Darth Dawkins to bring him back on.
It's like saying Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody
It
Mary.
is. Maybe if we talk, hold on. Maybe if we talk about him enough right now, he'll bring his bitch ass here, but probably not.
Yeah, it's like every time someone says my name in a stream, I pop up.
Oh, the thing is, I think there's people that run pre-sup better than Darth, and given Otangelo's propensity to learn new things, I definitely think like debating him on like presuppositional apologetics would be just like one of the best things ever.
Just read his little.
I'm waiting for him to come here and try to run it. I'm waiting for that to happen. Give it another couple weeks.
Yeah. You know, you have to believe in Santa Claus in order for the laws of logic to make sense.
Yep.
Read his comment on this video.
I can't see anything. There's
Question.
a bar in front and
Yeah, well,
question to Professor Shermer. How can we explain our existence without a creator in face of the fact that the
yeah,
it's just the same parroted stuff.
same shit.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
so he-
it's the same crap again. I mean, I
He
thought
hasn't-
that was like for a peptide, not a proteome.
he hasn't
Yeah,
changed
Matt's like-
much.
Matt Slick of Carm is one of the most notorious users of the presuppositional arguments.
Saitan Brigand
Yeah,
You know-
That guy got canceled though.
yeah,
Well, he didn't get canceled. He stepped down because
No, he was like kicked off of like the.
well, he quit
Yeah.
because he did bad stuff. He
Yeah, so apparently,
do bad sex stuff, so he quit.
yeah. So yeah, basically we have
What the
no
fuck?
basis for morality
what?
and ethics.
So Cell is restreaming the modern day debate right after the debate. I thought
What?
you had to wait a week.
Yeah, I thought you
No.
had to. Yeah.
I don't
What?
think
What
you
are you
do.
talking about?
Oh, you let you stream it right away?
Andrew
Yeah.
wants to see Dr. Shermer's response.
I don't. What are you? What channel is he streaming this on?
His on Evidence and Reason.
I don't see anything live on that channel right now.
No, I got a reminder. It's in 30 minutes. So
Yeah,
I'm-
no, it's a review. It's an after show. After show is
an
anti-theism,
after show,
reasonable debate. On
Oh, it is an
YouTube.
after show. Okay.
Yes, it is. Yes. It
Okay,
is.
but do
Oh,
you have
by
a
the
link? Do you have a link to it?
I can get
Yeah.
you a link to it.
Well, I can get one too here. I just have to
Okay.
send my. I get it on my phone, but I don't get it on my computer, which is really weird. So I have to send myself a link to my computer, which really kind of pisses me off.
By the way, something Leo should try to explain to people is that you can have something like a probability 0 but still be possible.
Oh, you're gonna have to explain that to me.
I can give you a link to a number file video that explains it pretty well.
Okay.
Really?
Number file, 3 blue, 1 brown.
Oh, sorry. A what?
Send us the link.
3 blue, 1 brown video. It's a
why don't you just share it and share the video right now, and we can all watch it and have some fun.
God, if I have to, fucking.
Well, how long? It's not like 35 minutes long, is it? I'm assuming like 8 to 10 minutes.
20? I think it's like 20.
Oh Jesus, never mind.
I can put the link to it. It's pretty decent.
Cannot wait.
Actually, all that stuff.
That would need to be explained to me unless they're drawing a distinction between probability and possibility, and trying to argue that even if the probability is 0, that it's still possible, and so to some degree could still happen. I mean, if that's what they're arguing, then I guess it's correct. But
Mutable, have you given us a link yet to that?
Hold on, there's 2 parts
Wait,
to this.
okay, I thought of an example. Let's say you have an empty bag at T0 at T1. What's the probability you pull a red marble at T2? 0, right?
0, yeah.
Yeah, but it's still logically possible. You can
Okay.
yeah, of course, yeah, it's still possible.
Isn't that what you were saying, Immutable? Like that
Yeah,
you can have a 0 probability, and yet still be it's still not impossible or something. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what he's going for.
And so that's when you pop up that Jim Carrey thing. So you're saying there's a chance?
I think the example he uses is like a dartboard, and if you consider like every point on the dartboard to be like
In
the
title,
real number, or like with a coordinate of like real numbers, the chance like that you hit any given point on that dartboard is 0. But that doesn't mean it's impossible.
So Andrew, where's Andrew? Oh, he's not here no more. So
Yeah,
Andrew,
That's cool.
Wow.
I don't think he was talking to Shermer, was he? On that video?
who?
Yes,
No.
Shermer versus a girl, and then
It was like another ACA video, something of that style, and Otangelo was in the comment section, and I highlighted one of his comments, but he was not there talking to Michael Shermer himself.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I don't know. So I'd have to find out where it is.
Can I just say, like, I'm not a fan of Dillahunty. I used to be, but I'm not anymore.
Yeah,
I disagree with him on some things, but I don't think he's the worst person ever.
No, that's
he's
not
bad
it.
person at all.
I think his arguments are like really, really good. Like they're very logical. I think my big thing is his more so like his attitude, like the air he gives off about like his arguments and how he treats interlocutors, like on the Atheist Experience and things like that.
Yeah, I don't like the performance on the Atheist Experience because they'll ask a question, somebody will go to explain it, and then he'll cut them off and explain how that's not evidence and that he runs the show and that he can just hang up on them whenever he wants. And my assumption has been that the AXP show has just become like a show that's notoriety is built around. Yeah, well, answer my questions when I demand you to, or I'm just going to hang up on you. And so I think that's sort of like the whole mood of that show, and I think that's just really bad.
I think what's also occurring too is like, I think Matt is really holding to an empiricist kind of framework in terms of like the answers he wants people to give in terms of in terms of like the answers that he wants people to give to his questions.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody's saying something is like God is a possible explanation for whatever, right? You shouldn't necessarily discount that out of hand. You should have the person try to explain why it is they view that why they view God as an appropriate as a sufficient explanation for that phenomenon or something like that. Like, you shouldn't be dismissing it out of hand.
If somebody told me that God is a possible explanation for something, I would say, yeah, you're right. God is possible explanation. It could be God that explains this. And then I will respond with either A, but we know that it's not God, or B, that we have absolutely no precedent for anything that would indicate that it would be a God, and so should refrain from making that assumption. Now, if somebody makes a statement that that God is a probable explanation for something, or even a plausible explanation, I think that there is a little bit more of a discussion to be had. And I would be interested in having a discussion. But if somebody came to me and said God is a possible explanation for some observed phenomenon, I'd say, yeah, God is a possible explanation.
So I think what I would do is a little different. I think what I would go after is what types of corollaries would we expect to observe alongside this explanation, right? If there is a God that created things and stuff like that, what should we expect to see of the world? What properties should I expect to see manifested in the world that would inform me that this assumption or this hypothesis, or this conjecture, whatever you want to call it, is more likely to be true than not?
Oh, of course. I would also ask that question, but the first thing that I would say is that, yeah, God is possible. But like I said, I would either A, respond with, but we know that God doesn't explain this thing that you're claiming that God explains, or B, we would have a discussion on the merits of that explanation as a potential hypothesis for explaining this observed phenomenon.
There would be more robes. I think more people would wear robes if God created the universe.
I don't know what that means.
I mean, I think if God created the universe, and that if the claim that some fundamentalists make, which is that the message of the Bible is it's available to all people, and that he's made it known to all people, I'd simply ask, why is it that there's so much disagreement within doctrine of the
exactly
people that claim to hold to the same religion?
Right, they can't even agree on the canon of Scripture.
But I don't think that's not an epistemic. That's not. How is that relevant at all?
What, that there's disagreement on Scripture?
Yeah.
Well, the different interpretations.
I think it's relevant to some degree, but I think for the most part, it's not a point I'm going to bring up, I guess is what I would say. It's not that I would argue that it means nothing, or one can't use it to implicate some sort of conclusion about the merits of Christianity or whatever other potential religion. So, it's just not a point that I would personally choose to bring up. I feel that you could attack that religion utilizing better arguments. I think that there's better ways to go about it.
Yeah, but wouldn't it mean that God's word is kind of ambiguous and not particularly clear?
Well, yeah, but then that's just going to lead into a much broader discussion that could go down God knows how many different rabbit holes, and God knows that you're going to end up going down how many of those rabbit holes, and it's a discussion that I would rather avoid. I think that there are more fruitful discussions to be had on that particular topic.
The way I like to go with that kind of conversation is I use that to kind of raise the point of, if God is omniscient and all powerful and all that, right? And I don't think he is, but that's beside the point. I can grant it for the sake of argument. Why would God create, or why would God, manufacture his message in such a way that there's so much apparent disagreement between people who claim to be adherents to this?
A sort of a divine hiddenness argument to some degree.
Something like that.
See, and I actually think that divine hiddenness is a decent argument. I think, and this is probably going to sound boastful, and I don't mean it to come off that way, but I would argue that the particular version of divine hiddenness that I give that is more broad than just God's not likely existing, but anything that could be categorized as supernatural, I would argue that I can give a pretty strong case utilizing the concept of divine hiddenness at least. But I do think that is one of the better avenues for attacking a religious argument. Essentially, the claim that, or the argument that if God does indeed exist, he exists in such a way as to appear, at least to us, that he doesn't exist at all, and that thereby, if you grant Occam's razor, we can reasonably make the assumption that God doesn't exist, because even if it did, it has absolutely no bearing on anything relevant to our lives, and so it's not, it's meaningless.
You got a question for you, Leo, on the screen.
Oh,
It relates to the free will discussion.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good one. But it's one of the ones. It's one point on the fundamental acausality of nature that most people have heard of, and I prefer to go for something like tunneling, quantum tunneling, or vacuum field fluctuations, which are also stochastic. But I think that they more aptly draw the picture of what it means for a process to be stochastic, particularly quantum tunneling.
Would you say like that rules that govern quantum mechanics can account like or make up like some form of causality, or it's some kind of like generate adherence to causality or something?
Potentially, yes. The thing with causality, when we start looking, I mean, you can see it in certain things in classical mechanics once you start getting into many body systems and what have you. But when you really go down to the quantum level, I'm not going to say that things straightforwardly don't have causes. What I would say is to speak of the events and the states that we're describing in terms of cause and effect is just
meaningless.
It has no utility. Things, when we're speaking of the mathematics in quantum mechanics, and obviously you know this, Immutable, you don't really look at things in a cause effect way. It's much different than that. What I would say is more something along the lines of, maybe it's inaccurate, but I don't think so, that causality tends to have an entirely different ontology at the quantum level, such that you speak of it in different terms. You wouldn't really say some event has a cause. That wouldn't be, but that's not to say that there aren't antecedent factors that could contribute in some way, shape, or form to the particular states or the degrees of freedom that are being measured.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is that I would almost make an argument that saying that trying to make an argument of like causality when it comes down to like quantum mechanics, it just doesn't make sense. Like it's an incoherent notion at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And partially because like the structure of the theory is one that's statistical in nature, so it doesn't make sense to say like what causes something to be. Why is it the case that when I roll a dice I got 6 instead of a 3 or something like that? Well, there isn't really like an explanation if the system is purely statistical and and probabilistic in nature. There's nothing you can appeal to like within the structure of the mathematics or anything else for that matter that really a priori allows you to say why you would get this result over another.
Exactly. I think that was worded very beautifully, that you can't look to just the structure of the mathematics here to sort of pin down what a cause would be for some observed phenomenon. To me, talking about something along the lines of, well, like to ask the question, what causes mass, to me is as incoherent as asking what is the position and the momentum of an electron simultaneously. We don't speak about these objects in that manner. We can't. We don't have enough information to it. Not really that we don't have enough information to. The information to speak about these things in this way just isn't there. It's just not the way that reality is structured, at least at this level.
Logically, to me, that feels like asking the question of like, well, what causes a fact?
Yeah.
That's a really like weird question. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to answer that because there isn't anything that causes facts. Facts are what they are. Like they don't take any rooting from any other notion.
Yeah.
And to say that something like X does explain a fact, well, then X would be the fact, not the thing you initially.
It gets tricky there. I think that it's sensical to ask what explains a fact, but not. I agree with you. It's not sensical to ask what causes a fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because think about like the notion of explanation with respect to logic and math, where if I give you a syllogism, the syllogism explains why the conclusion follows. Or
yeah. So I mean,
you know,
I think we're in agreement, like that. There's a way you can explain it, but not necessarily.
and there are these things
through the
called
concept of causation. Yeah.
there are these
Yeah.
things called truth makers, which are well, I don't even know what most philosophers think, but the idea is that when a proposition is true, there's something else in the world that makes that true.
Would you
It's
say that
usually an
that's a
abstract
relational
object.
property, or that's a property inherent to the?
I don't know how to cash it out, but I think
Okay,
I
that's
think
fair enough.
that like the correspondence theory of truth, you could think of that relation, a certain proposition, and then the way the world is, that there's a relational property there of a sort. But a lot of people get confused by that, and that's one of the reasons why. Have you ever heard of? I think it's called Brandon's objection, and it's actually utilized.
I don't think I have.
Okay, so if A is related to B, and there's a relational property between A and B, let's just say that as X, okay? Then there's something that relates to A and X and B. And so there's like a potential infinite regress between, each relational property in one side of the relation. And then there'll be like you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, to kind of move it back to like the correspondence theory of truth, I think most times, like the correspondence theory of truth is a beautiful thing. It's a good way of understanding like truth values or things like that. I think where it breaks down, though, and all theories of truth kind of suffer from their own issues, but the question you can ask reasonably of a person that uses correspondence theory is, well, what accounts for correspondence? Like, or what explains, two things that correspond to each other? What does
That's one of the biggest questions posed to correspondence theorists. That's why I'm somewhat partial to like pragmatic theories of truth, where like what truth is just the goal of inquiry. So like, but I haven't really investigated, but I use correspondence theory of truth because it's really understandable in dialogue. But I kind of ignore the philosophical issues, and I'm trying to investigate a pragmatic theory of truth. I think those are interesting to me.
Would you say that like all theories of truth are kind of an approximation to what truth is, or like that there is like some metaphysical theory of truth that is like perfectly consistent?
Oh, I'm not a good person to ask.
Okay, that's fair enough. Because I am curious, because like there's different theories of truth in philosophy, and they all seem to break down at some point or another for like
I've heard the expression where when you take you don't take a philosophical position for what it accomplishes, but you take a philosophical position based on the least number of problems that it has.
I would say there's another factor that contributes to it as well, which is its utility, in a way.
Well, yeah, that's almost like a pragmatic. That's into pragmatic theory of truth.
Yeah, I think the objection I would kind of raise against myself there is that just because like there's utility in something doesn't necessarily mean that that is utility.
Well, yeah, but it's a little bit more sophisticated than that. There's two kinds of branches of pragmatic theory of truths, and there's epistemic and non-epistemic. So there are people out there that think that all truth is what's useful, and that's a non-epistemic pragmatic theory. And then there's like the more sophisticated kind, which I am currently looking into. So once I look into that, I will let you know.
Yeah, I just think it's a tremendously interesting rabbit hole, because it obviously, like, once you answer that question, it does play a role into how we interpret things that make claims about truth or make claims about objects like that have a property of truth with them, like claims about science and things like that.
Yeah, I think the pragmatic theory of truth is much more than how most people characterize it as just like what's true is what's useful to me. It's not characterized that way in the literature.
I'd have to look into it more because unfortunately I've heard of the theory, but I'm not very acquainted with the theory at this point to speak intelligibly about it.
Which
Yeah,
one?
me neither.
Which one?
We're talking about the difference between correspondence theory of truth and pragmatic theory of truth.
Oh.
And how the correspondence theory of truth is kind of decent, but it has some issues.
Yeah, it's what I use in dialogues, but I'll acknowledge that there are unresolved issues.
So, Speed, any clips you want to show, or
I just showed one about the parrot or the woodpecker that had a bad day. Did
well, you
anybody
didn't talk about it?
Huh?
Well, you didn't talk about it.
It was a pretty good clip. You didn't see it?
I don't know. I mean, we were talking about philosophy for like the past 10, 15 minutes. So
You missed the woodpecker having a bad day. Woodpeckers should not peck high tension electrical poles.
Oh,
pretty much know what the woodpecker.
That's not good.
He disappeared instantly. He instantly disappeared, feathers and all.
It's like God took his soul.
God,
Maybe he was just transported.
he was transported. Yeah, that's what I like to think. I like to think he was transported to a better place.
Yep.
He's a drone from the 24th century.
He's secretly a government spy. He's
sister,
completed his role.
my
And now
sister
he
said that
continues
to
to
me
spy.
to cheer me up.
Seeing a bird get electrocuted cheers you up?
My sister thinks so, but she was wrong.
Oh, boy. Boy, your family has some interesting.
I call her my twisted sister.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
Yep. Anyway, what else we got going? Frosted Flakes. Oh, the lizard wanted Frosted Flakes. That's why you had to go to the top shelf. You wouldn't settle for anything else. You missed the lizard too, didn't you?
I must miss like these weird references.
You
I'm not
missed
like the best
Well,
read
I
on
think
like
Andrew
millennial
appreciated my monitor lizard.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, nobody appreciated my woodpecker.
So when are we getting to like this? Is the Cell Machine paper part 2?
You know, I don't think I got anything going on tomorrow other than maybe Cy and Demeter for an hour. But
okay.
Wait a minute. No, there was something. Did I make a promise about tomorrow? No, I was going. Okay, we're going to watch David Neff's stream. That's happening. So I don't know. We could probably do it tomorrow evening. Except right. I can't do it after Shameless comes out because I got to watch Shameless because I think they killed Frank. So.
Spoiler. Oh God, they killed Frank.
Spoiler.
We could talk about the knock issue, but apparently that's a.
Yeah, I have something in the private chat for that, and if you say it again, I'm going to throw you out. We'll discuss it.
I wasn't even going to take it to that point, but I mean, if you want to take it to that point, we can.
We'll discuss it in the back room when we get off stream, whenever that is.
Whatever happened to freedom of the press?
Freedom of the press is dead around here. You know I'm biased. You know how biased I am. I mean, I've been very open about that. I've never tried to hide that factor. So. Well,
you won't consider frameworks outside of naturalism, and won't even make a possibility argument.
That's not bias.
I don't think I would consider frameworks outside of naturalism either. I don't think that any framework corresponds to the reality that we observe any better than naturalism does.
Right.
Leo. I was referring like to, well, to me, I don't see like accepting the existence of like of objects like in propositional form or like some form of dualism as being like a heresy of some kind.
Benghazi missed it too. Heresy, I say heresy.
I don't see it as being a heresy, as being heretical. I'm just a nominalist. I think that most of our abstractions are just conventional. They're just They're just abstract conventions of our mind. They don't really have any ontology outside of that, if you could consider that itself an ontology at all.
Okay, but that kind of, to me, that kind of makes the question of if they're just useful concepts and they don't correspond to anything at all, shouldn't we all label
Well,
one?
it's not that they don't correspond to anything, it's that they don't have any concrete reality. That's the whole point of the word conventional. If something's conventional, it has some utility, like mathematics. I can't give you, 3. I can't give you 7. I can give you 7 of some physical object, because what numbers are just abstract conventional descriptions of sets of physical things that humans experience in their day-to-day lives. These are just abstractions of our mind that help us understand, communicate the reality that we exist in.
I could kind of get on board with that, but it kind of if I were to accept that, I'd kind of have to be like a skeptic concerning like reality itself in that case.
I don't think so. I'm a realist. I'm a pretty hard realist as well.
To me, the thing is, like, when I say something exists being real, like, there's also a concept of that thing that I'm referring to. And to me, it makes sense to say, at least,
that's my problem, Immutable.
Yeah,
right? The idea is that if 3 has a property, I mean, what existence is, it's just there being properties. If there are properties, and that is how we understand existence, then to say that 3 has the property of being odd poses an issue.
I don't think so.
I think denying the property kind of calls into question, or kind of like trivializes what what the object is, because you can redefine it to be anything you want to be.
I just would say that humans can develop conventional systems that contain internal patterns or symmetries, and that's what like even and odd and certain things in mathematics are.
Right, but usually we don't create those frameworks in a way that they're fundamentally abstract. We refer to them, like, we use them to refer to things like that exist concretely, unless you're talking about like really like high level math, like abstract algebra and stuff like that.
I mean, of course, that's the point that I'm making, that the number 3 can describe concrete, a set of concrete objects, but the number 3 is not itself a concrete object. The number 3, while something existing in a set that would otherwise be described by humans as being what we call 3, might exist, what we call 3 in terms of the actual description, that convention itself would not exist absent humans.
Well, okay.
Right.
I do want to reiterate that the physical state of affairs that a human would otherwise call 3 would still exist, but the description itself would not. Humans invented that description as a way of describing that physical state of affairs.
Okay, but to me that's nonsensical, right? Because what 3 is, like, as an object is. Right. I mean, if you
I don't view 3 as an object. 3 is not to me an object.
Oh, then I
Yeah,
disagree.
but it has properties.
I've already said that I believe that abstract conventions can contain properties. I don't see why that would be
a problem.
You think if someone had the concept of 3 being even, what would establish that to be a false belief?
The internal symmetric structure of our current mathematical convention.
So if the convention changed, 3 could be odd.
Wait, no. What you mean to say is if we changed our mathematical convention, 3 would be even, where it is now currently odd.
Right,
Yeah. And technically, Danny, yeah, that's correct. We could change our mathematical system so that 3 plus 3 equals 64 if you really wanted it to. It's just a matter of manipulating the system. And obviously anybody can do that. I mean, we all know that math, you can do a lot of really, really strange things with math. But that doesn't mean that those will all have some sort of utility in describing the reality that we see around us and best communicating that to the rest of our species, and utilizing that knowledge as a way of making predictions and utilizing that to develop technologies that aid us in our survival.
Immutable, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think that's a point to my position, rather than being a skeptic in regards to like real numbers being an actual thing or not. To me, like mathematical objects like 3 or 2 or whatever you want to say, right, are properties that are described by relations among sets, right?
Mhm.
The fact that those relationships can change, I mean, that's fine and all. In that case, we're just referring to different objects, or the definition or the relation we've defined.
It's just your conventions changing.
Yeah,
It'd be the difference between measuring the length of a tabletop in feet versus meters versus inches versus Glockenschlocks. I mean,
yeah, right. But to me, what appears to be fundamental is some kind of metric of relation that's of relations between sets, right?
well, yeah, sets of things that humans observe. The whole concept, when we say set, that is itself a concept. That is something that humans invented for describing what we see around us. We can look and we can see that there is a number of objects, and we can say, well, that is a set of, say, rocks. There's 6 rocks here. What we call 6 would refer to the number of rocks that we see present there. So, I mean, I'm on board with the whole mathematics is an objective description of reality. I don't deny that. I don't deny that it's useful. I don't deny that it has internal symmetries and that the concepts contained within it themselves
Wait, you think
have properties.
it's objective?
Mathematics? Yeah.
I took objective to mean that the truth conditions don't involve agency.
That's
Yeah.
well, I mean, yes, but I feel like you're hinting at something that I think would be an extension of what was said that I don't think is necessarily applicable to my particular worldview.
Do you think it's objectively true that 3 + 3 is 6?
No.
Okay, so that just depends on what I think or what you think.
What do you mean?
No, it depends on, again, it depends on like set relations that define like addition and things like that.
Yeah.
That govern both the identity of the object and relations between objects.
A good way that I would say it is 3 + 3 = 6 is as true in an objective sense as the statement stars emit electromagnetic radiation.
Sorry, what about stars?
The statement 3 + 3 = 6 is true objectively for the same reason that the statement stars emit electromagnetic radiation is true objectively.
I'm confused. If there were no minds, is it true that 3 + 3 is 6?
Is it true that what we would call and otherwise refer to as 3 added to itself, doing the operation that we would otherwise call addition to itself, would yield this other thing that we would otherwise call 6? Yes.
Okay, so that I'm not getting it, I suppose, then, because that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about that proposition, 3 + 3 is 6, in a world where there are no minds. You want to say it's true, and the idea is that what makes that true is not mind related.
Yeah, the quantities themselves are not mind related. The descriptions of them are.
Okay,
it's the difference between a map of the United States and the actual continent, the United States.
Okay, hold on a sec though. What we describe 3 to be, though, like fundamentally as a mathematical object, is simply its relation among sets, right? The fact that
that's what numbers are.
3 satisfies a property that for some integer, right, you can express it as 2 times some other integer plus 1. Right? That's the definition of odd integers. So, I mean, to me, like, what 3 is described to be, like, it doesn't, our description of it doesn't...
Well, look, the word describe is vague, right? I agree that the language is partially conventional. Okay,
yeah,
and I take descriptions used in the way that Leo is talking, which if there's content in an expression, that content is going to be propositional.
Well,
I mean, is it true that A is a vowel?
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, but the whole concept of A's and vowels and all that wouldn't exist if humans didn't.
Right. That's why I don't consider that to be on the same plane as mathematics, right? Because I don't know what it would mean to say A is a vowel independent of human beings. Because vowel...
Well,
right?
I think I can make sense of that, right?
Well, think about what vowel means. Can someone educate me? Vowel, I think, has to do with bodily dispositions, right?
Well, a vowel, I mean, it tends to be related to like linguistic structure, right? And that relates like to propositions about, well, more so kind of like meta propositions about how propositions can be formed under a system of language.
Yeah, look, I just Googled it. I was right. It has to do with bodily dispositions. So a speech sound, which is produced by comparatively open configuration of the vocal tract, right? So you can't talk about vowels without talking about human beings and their.
I don't think we can talk about math
mammals.
without talking about human beings either.
Really?
Well,
that's kind of weird.
Well, but that would be, but we do all the time, right? Like it makes sense to say that prior to humans.
Wait, when have we ever talked about mathematics without there being a human present to do the talking about the mathematics? Because mathematics requires humans because humans invented math.
Wait,
well, okay.
When we say
that's entirely different though, because I mean, like when we talk about like a mathematical object, say the square root of 2, for instance, like that object doesn't appear to like relate to humans in any like
more simply. Look, how we could say that it was true that there were 8 planets, right? Or there was one sun in this solar system prior to human beings and prior to mammals, prior to vocal tracts, right?
And I mean, in some senses, yes. In other senses, no.
So I think the issue Leo's going to fall into, and the issue I think I fall into, as a matter of fact, like if I take his position, is that what we observe like as phenomenon of the world in this case just appear to be, you know, in some ways like a just so story that relates to our perceptual faculties and our ability to perceive the world around us.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I think that's the natural conclusion that follows from
not the conclusion that I have for what I hold to. No.
Is it possible that the way you perceive the world could be other than it is?
Wait, look, I don't. I think
it depends on what kind of possibility we're talking about. I mean, is it physically possible? Perhaps, yeah.
This could be put more simply.
We're not going to know.
This could be put more simply. Do you and I, Leo, have the same belief that 3 is an odd number?
I would assume so, but I can't be certain about that. I really don't know.
Have you ever agreed with someone on any truth?
Yes.
Okay. That means what agreement means is that you share a belief with them, right?
I know what agreement means.
Okay. To share a belief, there has to be one common property at the least. Right?
Yeah, that you each adhere to the same belief.
Well, yeah. So, but the point is that everything about a belief.
You're right.
Good night, Dave.
I'm out of here for the night. Good night. I will be.
Lucky you.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. on my channel. Bye-bye.
Peace out.
If everything about a belief is mental, then that would be impossible.
What would be impossible?
That we could have any one common property.
What do you mean?
So this is what I mean. That for us to share a belief, there has to be one thing that's in common that is the same between our beliefs, right?
Yeah, I would argue that would be the intention with an S of the belief.
Wait, you and I have 2 different intentions. My intention and your intention are not the same.
Of the same belief? No, because the internal content of that belief would be the same. Otherwise, we wouldn't share it.
Right,
so
but
the intention of the belief is what is what's symmetric there.
Look, the point is that if there's one common property, we can't appeal to any mental content or mental state to say that that's the one thing that we could appeal to establish agreement.
Well, I would argue that intention, again, with an S, is a mental state.
Right, but you see, you have your intention, I have mine. They're not the same.
So if we adhere to the same belief, then we adhere to the same intention of that belief, because the internal concept of the belief will be the same. That's what it means to say that we agree on the same belief.
Look, I'm just saying that's
Platonism. But that intention, again, with an S, just to keep everybody up to date on that, is itself a mental concept. So the symmetric property is a mental concept.
Yeah, I'm saying that okay, but you see, if there's a concept in your mind, in your head, and there's a concept in my head, they can't be the same concept.
If the intention of that concept is the same, then yes, it is.
Wait, but look, they have to establish identity. All the properties have to share.
Is this lighter blue? And
Yes.
I do apologize. Okay, so the intention of that concept to both of us is identical. When we both look at this lighter,
Yep.
we
I
see
agree with
the
Leo.
same thing. The intention of what we're seeing, the internal content of what's happening visually is identical.
Oh, look.
Yep.
Okay,
That's all purely mental.
You're
It's
not.
all
Look,
purely in the
this
brain.
is not. This doesn't make sense, right? Let me explain why this doesn't make sense. Because you have your intention and I have my intention.
I feel like you're
But
thinking
they're the
intention
same.
with a T. I'm talking
That doesn't
intention with an S.
look. The point is that you're saying that there's a difference, but they're identical.
No, I don't. Wait, I don't think if we hold to the same exact belief that, like, say 3 is an odd number, I don't think there's anything different there.
Okay, there's one way to look at this, Danny, and that if you look at that kind of perception, like the perception of color as
Oh
shallow.
my god, I don't think Speed's going to be able to clear anything up here. Let me just talk to Leo.
Okay.
It's his channel, so he can go whenever he
to
wants.
make it to see if I understand it. Or okay,
I don't know if you were talking to me.
There were 4.
So I think what Danny's expressing, or at least what I'm taking from Danny's like argument in this case, is simply the fact that, like, if you're referring to, like, to be an object as something with, like, which relates to property of a mind, or, you know, like some conception of a mind, but we're both, like, referring to like some intention or about, like, some property like of that object, like in particular that we both, like, hold some belief about that object to be true. I think under your framework, it would be possible for that to be not, like, for that possibility to be negated, right?
Yeah, it doesn't mean that it is. I mean, even if it is impossible, that doesn't mean that, or not impossible. Even if it's likely, that doesn't mean that it is the case.
I think the point, though, is that the fact, like, that modal possibility exists establishes that what grounds the intention isn't a property of the mind. It's something different.
Well, then what's it a property of?
It's a property of in my view, and in Danny's view, it's a property of abstract objects.
And what kinds of properties do abstract objects have? Like, what would be a universal property? What would be a universal property that all abstract objects would have that identifies them as being abstract without appealing to any other properties that those objects hold?
The content within the proposition that it expresses.
So then the intention that makes something abstract is going to differ between what that abstract object itself is.
Well, it depends on. Look, I mean, I'm not going to say, like, that there's no, like, relation between language and abstract objects in the way that abstract objects can be constructed, right? You have to have, like, some form of linguistic structure to begin construing propositions and making sense of how propositions can be defined in a cogent manner, right? So, I mean, to me, that's a triviality.
Yes, but the point that I'm getting at, and I might be mistaken here, so I don't know if Danny in the chat or if you hear Immutable notice mistakes in this argument. Speed, Scott, anybody, just let me know because I don't want to use this. But it seems to me that there is no universal property that all abstract objects hold that would identify them as being an abstract object without appealing to any other properties that those objects hold. That what it means to be abstract, essentially, that abstract objects and defining them as abstract depends on what you're talking about. Because I could have the abstract concept of a pencil, but pencils aren't necessarily abstract. So
Right.
It seems to me that there isn't really a way to say that this is a set of abstract objects and it is this property that defines them that way.
Okay, I mean,
and this is why I'm a nominalist. The idea
They're not
of
physical and they have no location. I guess they have no location, and
yeah, I
time
mean,
and space would describe them.
To me, I view abstracts the same way that I view Facebook. That Facebook doesn't have a location in space-time necessarily, like 3, or, you know, like these things also do not have a location in space. They aren't necessarily constructed of mass or energy. They're not necessarily concrete. But that being said, they are the result of the patterns that emerge out of the structure and function of concrete things. So abstract objects are to the human brain what Facebook is to a computer.
Did somebody block Danny?
I
did.
Yes, for 5
You know?
minutes. I don't know why, but
I don't know why either. But the question I would want to ask is that do you think like that abstract objects are related to linguistic structures take away the property of abstract objects that they are abstract?
can you repeat that one more time?
Do you think the property of abstract objects, one property of abstract objects being that they need to cohere or be defined like within the context of some linguistic structure, takes away from the fact that an abstract object is abstract?
Not necessarily, no.
Right, but okay, in that case, I mean, I don't understand your objection. Right,
But
because you were asking a question about what is it with an abstract object fundamentally that makes it abstract, and I was saying the property, like whatever property like is entailed and described with an abstract object.
But wouldn't that differ from object to object?
Well, sure. I mean, but it's still fundamentally abstract.
So then it doesn't seem to me to be that particular property is what's making it abstract. If it can differ, if there are other abstract objects that might not necessarily have that property.
And the fact that it can differ just means that the semantics in the linguistic structure is changing, right? The relationship between symbols which define that object, though, no matter what linguistic structure you have, are going to be preserved by whatever rules that the linguistic structure must cohere to.
See, I would argue abstractions in the human mind are fundamentally a result of our linguistic structures, because our linguistic structures, I also think, are internal. They're not just communicative. They're internal to us as well, and that is a result of the fact that we have the ability to develop linguistic structures and various other conventions for understanding things, even internally, is a result of our higher order processing. And I think that what this means is that what we call abstractions, while one could say that they do exist in some sense, in the same way that Facebook, I mean, it exists, even though I can't give you a cup of Facebook or put it on a scale and weigh it for you or tell you where it's located in space-time, or really it has all of the same properties, or rather lack thereof, that abstract objects do, that I just listed. But that's still something that is dependent on the structure and function of some other physical object, without which that thing, the object, the abstraction, the abstract object, I should say, would not exist if it weren't for the structure and function of the physical object from which it emerges. So abstractions are derivative from a brain the same way that like a website is derivative from a computer.
So you're saying, I think, if I'm understanding you right,
just to clarify really quickly, that's not to say, because to me what Platonism is saying is that like Google as a website existed before we started using it as one, that we didn't create Google, we discovered it. It existed in some sense, in some realm that is in some way, shape, or form connected to ours, and then we found it and started using it as a website. To me, when people talk about objects existing platonistically, that's the idea I get, and that just makes no sense to me. Abstract objects are to the brain what websites are to a computer. They don't have the typical properties of a concrete object, being extant in space-time, having mass, electric charge, all these other properties, but they still exist in some sense, but they only exist insofar as some other material, as being derivative of some other material that is structured in some way and is also functioning in some way.
To me, I think the issue I take is that there has to be some. At some point, it seems like you're going to get back to you're going to hit an infinite regress at some point.
Of what?
An
infinite regress of what?
Of reference.
I want pizza.
Right?
I want an infinite regress of pizza.
If you're saying like that, what the mental concept of milk or something like that, right, is related to a specific structure, in the brain or some kind of process that
emerges out of.
Right. I mean, if you're appealing to that, though, you can also appeal to. You can also then ask the question of what establishes, about the identity of that particular process, right? And for that, you're going to appeal to something more fundamental, like laws pertaining to electromagnetism. And
yeah, so wow. and that's the thing, is that these things are all derivative of what reality fundamentally is, and reality is fundamentally strong interactions, electromagnetism, electrons, quarks, bosons, right. All of these things.
When you get like to the fundamental nitty gritty of it, like something like electromagnetic theory, for instance, at least like classical electromagnetism, those equations are to me at least, they're conceptual and they're abstract objects, right? There isn't, to me, like saying that there's something like physically, like that there's some like physical manifestation by which to appeal to them, right, would be kind of likening the view to Platonism in a way.
I just
Right.
view equations like I do maps. They're things that humans made up to describe other things that we see and how they work and what they look like and what they do. If we
I
didn't
don't-
exist, though, like maps wouldn't exist. The places that maps describe still would. All the features that would otherwise be described by the maps still exist, all that stuff. But the maps don't. Same basic principle. Mathematics is just a thing that humans invented because it's really, really useful, at least internally for us and externally, for understanding reality. With the cognitive functions that we have, that type of system is really, really useful for helping us describe, understand, and communicate the reality that we see around us. But if we didn't exist, that convention would not exist either. Reality still would. The things that it would otherwise describe in reality still would. But the convention itself would not.
I don't see what establishes, like under your view, like the sufficiency for a concept to exist if a mind exists, right? Like,
Wait, what do you mean?
So what you're saying, if I'm not misinterpreting you, is that like if I appeal to some object like the number 3 or something like that, like what is sufficient to describe the number 3 in some sense is ultimately going to refer in some way or another to the existence of a mind.
Yeah.
But to me,
exactly.
to me, I find it more simple to appeal to the fact that like that there's some property that's abstract fundamentally, like that describes the number 3, that it's a relation between sets. And I don't see there being any inconsistency by saying that relationships between sets and abstract objects contained within those sets, describes the world around us, or describes objects that we appeal to.
I just don't think that it would describe anything if we didn't exist, because what does it mean for something to describe something else when there isn't an agent there that's doing any describing?
Well,
to me, it's like saying that we have latitude and longitude lines, but they don't actually, like if humans didn't exist, latitude and longitude lines wouldn't exist. It's the same way I view abstract objects, because to me, latitude and longitude lines are abstract.
Well, I mean, to say that there's something which is related to something else establishes a relational property.
Of course.
Between those two objects. And to me, that relational property isn't physical.
Isn't?
So for me, again, like that property doesn't derive from minds. It derives from
what does it derive from?
It derives from a relational property.
Yeah, but relational properties wouldn't be capable of being identified without minds. What does it mean for something to be related without a mind to recognize some sort of symmetry or pattern that gives that relation?
I don't see why that has to be the case, right? For me to establish a relationship, I can describe whatever relationship.
Yeah, you can, but you're an agent. If no agent existed, it would make no sense to talk about things being related.
That kind of puts the point to like if without humans, words can mean whatever you want words to mean. Instead,
well, I mean, technically yes, because words wouldn't exist, so somebody could invent any sound they wanted and make it mean whatever intention, again with an S, they chose to apply to it.
Yeah, to me, that would apply even if you have like cognizant agents, right? Because there's nothing which demands for people, or like which necessarily like demands for people to agree upon the particular structure or the particular like content of a concept.
The
right?
intent.
Yeah, the intention.
So you're saying that there isn't anything that necessarily commits one to the intention that is contained within some concept that somebody is communicating.
Yeah.
I mean, I would agree to that, but I would argue that because to me, in a lot of ways, language and communication are normative. I would say that one ought commit themselves to certain intentions, again, for the audience with an S, that are contained within concepts when communicated to best understand what is going on around them, to be best informed, because they're more likely going to be able to act in a more survivable manner if they do.
I mean, that's to assume that people all, that at some point or another, people are sharing a desire, right? Which yes, like in the modern world, that's true, but I don't see why there's a reason that would have to be true, right? I think people could, in some world, people could live their lives just according to whatever intentions they wanted to have. And
I think they could too. I just think that it would be a lot harder for them to do so.
Well, sure, but under that construction, like there would be no such thing as language or such a thing that essentially, I mean, there's no intelligibility to be gained from that kind of hypothetical.
I have a question, and this
Sure.
is somewhat of a hypothetical. I just got my PhD. I'm ready to start work at my research lab. We're going to be measuring distances to certain objects, confirming their usage as standard candles. I want to, when I write my paper, use Glugenschmecks per Blippelbop.
Sure.
How do you, if I submitted a paper that measured distances in Glugel, I don't even remember what I said. Do you think that I would be published anywhere? Do you think anybody would publish? Why not?
Because there's a commitment between agents to agree upon common common terms.
So is that commitment necessitated by anything, or is it just normative? Is it just one ought commit themselves to some particular standard or norm because
I think that's where I think that's where my description in your or my account and your account will differ. Because to me, what commits people to appealing to the same concept is the fact that the way properties are defined, right?
I would argue it's utility.
Abstract. Yeah, it can be utility, but even so, you can have utility without referring to the same type of object.
So, quick question: you said you can there. Why did I not inherently, or why did I inherently assume that you meant can as the whatever the something junctive, I think it is, word that it is in sentences, and not like a soda can or a pop can or something like that? Why did I not think of a soda can or a pop can? Do you think that was volitional, or do you think that it was sort of subconscious and intrinsic because of the structure of our language?
And I think the property of our language describes the proper use of that word.
Yeah, see, that's the thing.
I think something. Right.
I think our
point, right?
Our linguistic structures inherently commit us to certain interpretations because it's just what we do. We adhere to the structures of our ability of our methods for communication because we understand that's when it's going to help us communicate best. It's true that somebody could just invent their own convention out of nowhere and utilize that, but I would argue that there isn't much of a motive to use that.
Weren't conventions always just pulled out of nowhere, though? I mean,
in some sense, yes. That we always generally it's more so in the physical sciences than in potentially other fields. But it's in the physical sciences, a lot of conventions like the meter or the kilogram are all defined in terms of generally in constants that we've been capable of observing and defining in reality. But we chose to do that. It's purely arbitrary. Completely arbitrary, and it's also dependent on the quantitative systems that we utilize for measuring, because when we want to talk about meters, you want to talk about distance, you're talking meters
you
per
say
second.
It's arbitrary. I think it's subjective to humans. I don't think
that's what I mean by arbitrary, is that there isn't anything that necessitates that we use this. We just was randomly chosen because this was what we decided to use, but we could have chosen something that utilizes completely different systems or conventions and still been able to describe the same reality that we observe. So fundamentally, almost everything about our conventional systems is arbitrary to some degree. Maybe not fully, but to some degree.
To me, I agree with you there, but to me that makes me wonder why, in that case, you're rejecting Platonism, because that's kind of what I was trying to express earlier, is that what establishes properties of abstract objects is going to be related to some linguistic structure that.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I would just say that linguistic structures are things, and they're conventions invented by humans. If humans didn't exist, linguistic structures wouldn't exist. The whole idea of abstract concepts wouldn't exist because there wouldn't be minds there to have them. There would just be physical reality and what it does. And because we exist within it, we receive external stimuli through our perceptive senses. We are capable of informing ourselves and understanding through the utilization of abstract conventions what this reality is, our place within it, how it works, communicating this with others. If we didn't exist, none of those things would. Physical reality would, how it operates would, all of those things. But all of the conventions that we use for describing them are just that. They're just descriptions of what it is. They don't exist independently of us. A lot of them are based in how we measure reality. So, like I said, a lot of these things are just arbitrary. If we didn't exist, they wouldn't.
Yeah.
To me, I mean, it seems more, to me, it just seems simpler to say they exist, whether we exist or not, and we select which ones we'd like to use to construct systems to try and make sense of the world.
I mean, I agree, but the thing with that is, and Danny himself has even said this, that under this view, it would not be true to say that J.K. Rowling invented Harry Potter. It would be true to say that she discovered him. I don't believe that. I don't believe that Harry Potter existed prior to J.K. Rowling. But on Platonism, I don't know about Neoplatonism, but I'm pretty sure on Platonism, no, nothing that has ever been invented by humans was ever invented by humans. It already existed in some esoteric or ethereal realm that humans had access to, and we discovered it out of that realm, pulled it out, and started using it. That's
that make
what,
all
like,
abstract
is.
concepts.
Yeah, that's what they all are.
Right?
Yeah, they exist in some ethereal realm, and we don't ever invent any of the abstractions that have ever been utilized by humans.
I don't buy that.
I don't either. That's Platonism. That's ridiculous to me. We invented these things. If we didn't exist, neither would they.
Where are you at on that one? On that immutable? Are you kind of with because it's a hard question. I know. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I could resolve that by saying there's an apparent that we discover certain things, and that's due to like the inability of humans to properly perceive all abstract objects simultaneously. And for that reason, we, feel that we discover certain things or relationships among abstract objects.
I get whatever you conceptualize. If it's, I get what you're saying. I do. Go on. I'm sorry.
I will acknowledge like that there is a that there does seem to like arise tension between like between Platonism in that sense and our human experience of certainly inventing or discovering certain concepts that we use like to make predictions and relate our world to those concepts.
Maybe like this almost goes into like a multiverse hypothesis, which is fun to speculate on. I don't know if there's too much support for it, but
I don't think it's too difficult if you accept just physicality, right? Just the physical universe. There are relations between things in the physical universe.
Mm-hmm.
There are similarities and there are differences. Though no two things can be exactly the same, they can have a certain homogeneous core where they have the same structure, the same relationships from one thing to another, depending on where they are in space. Humans come along and they abstract things based on similarities,
observe,
and differences. Right.
And this is the thing.
Humans come up with abstractions, and to say that abstracts are some kind of third kind of real or second kind of real thing is just troublesome.
Would abstractions be in that concept? Would abstractions be their own reality? Or would there be a reality of abstractions?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. Well, wait, hold on. In which view?
Platonism.
Yeah, and Platonism,
Platonism,
abstractions. Yeah. I shouldn't say abstractions. Abstract objects exist as objects in like their own reality. That is, some people. I mean, people have different arguments. I've heard some people have argued that it's emergent from this reality in some way, shape, or form, or exists concurrent to it, or something like that. But that yes, there's some separate realm that abstract objects exist in, and that humans have some connection to that realm and can discover the objects in it and utilize them, but that we didn't invent any of them. And I think one of the things that shows that that's false is that if humans existed at a different scale in reality or had a different phenomenological experience of reality, if we exist in different place, experience different things, a dimmer star, a brighter star, a faster rotation, different seasons, all sorts of different things, our conventions for describing the world would be different. If we existed on a planet that was, 102 million miles away from its star versus 93, the way that we measure things would be different. If our planet had higher or lower gravity, our conventions in physics would be different. Like, all of our
How far
all of
back
our
do you
math,
take those? Hold on. How far back do you take those conventions, though? Is this other concept to have a different speed of light per se? Because some of our measurements are
well, no,
based
I mean
on
there
something
would still be
finite.
like objective measurements made in reality, but the conventions that we use for describing them would be different. So, like the astronomical unit is the distance between the Earth and the Sun. But if that distance changed, then what humans call an astronomical unit would be different on that planet than it is for us. So, if the mass of their planet were heavier, their gravitational constants would be different than ours. So their conventions for understanding and measuring reality would be entirely different from ours if they existed under different pretenses in different environments, had different phenomenological experiences of reality, existed at a different scale. Like if there was some agent that were as intelligent, and this is a very contrived hypothetical, mind you, but I think it makes the point, that if there were some sort of creature that was as small as an ant, yet still had the intelligence of a human and could, develop conventions about the world around it, its conventions would look drastically different than those that was the size of something that was the size of the Empire State Building, because they exist at different scales. All the conventions, our sciences, our mathematics, all of this stuff are based on the way we exist in reality and the particular methods through which we can interact with it. You change those, you would change the conventions by which we describe what we observe and experience, because what we observe and experience would look different, or we would receive different information based on those changes.
Snake, can you hear us now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yep.
Okay.
What's going on?
Yeah, I have my headphone mic on. I don't have my normal mic, so it's kind of glitchy.
Can I ask you something real quick?
Sure.
It's the first time we really got to talk while you had this avatar. Why did your snake retain its forelimbs and lose its hind limbs? It doesn't seem.
It was just aesthetically pleasing, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. I guess.
Yeah, I didn't put a ton of thought into it, but I guess it's half cursed by God.
I'm going to say that that's like a cobra hood that's been evolved to mimic forelimbs aesthetically.
Yeah, it's a naga or something.
Good evening, Jefferson Spatchcock. Yes, correct. That's yeah. He said Plato.
Hi, Jefferson.
He said Plato believed that universals, the properties of an object that can exist in more than one place at the same time, like redness or strength or something like that, do in fact exist and are real. See, I'm a nominalist, so I'm opposed to that. I would argue that they aren't actually objectively real. They're just conventional ways that humans talk about things that they see around them. Nominalism would essentially maybe it's not nominalism that I'm thinking of, that universals don't really exist in the sense that, like a Platonist would say, that they exist more as ways that we can talk about different things, that we can talk about different things in the same ways. Like, speaking about color, the electromagnetic radiation can reflect off of two completely different objects that may even have two completely different fundamental chemical structures at the exact same wavelength, which would give rise to a universal quality or property that we would call redness.
Well, yeah, and there's another thing that makes it subjective to humans, because other species see different spectrums of light and they don't perceive the same colors we perceive. So our colors, the actual colors, are their colors.
Where they would call what we call red, they would recognize that what we call red, I'm just going to say red for them. Let's say they call it glurg. They would recognize that red and glurg are the same frequency of electromagnetic radiation, but the phenomenological intention of the experience of that frequency of EM radiation might be different, despite the fact that both agents, having a different phenomenological experience of the same thing, can still recognize that it's the same thing that they're looking at, talking about. Which seems to indicate that the way that we understand our reality is through the utilization of conventions that are arbitrary to our place in reality. And that's kind of how I look at things.
Yeah, I think all the important, meaningful properties of the thing that we're talking about are identical. Even even if the way it's like constructed is completely different, it still has the same output. So that's what actually matters. So like I'm sort of picking up from I heard Danny arguing about how like they're different ideas, but really the important parts are not.
Yeah, I was mentioning that there was this idea of a shallow perception, that when you and I both look at the same shade of pink, assuming that our eyes aren't a little bit screwed up and we're same species, same visual tools, we will perceptually see the same thing, even though it's represented very differently in our brains, because it doesn't go that far, because there is no reality underlying our qualia of pink. All that's required is that it basically get into your brain and elicit a certain response. And in that respect, I call it shallow. And I came up with that idea about 5 years ago. And it's a little hard to unpack, but it makes a lot of sense in that we all see pink very quickly without a great deal of reflection or thought. It's going to inspire different things in all of us. Of course, we're different human beings. We're going to have different sensations, but there is something about perceiving the color pink that is going to have a sameness to it, right?
Yes.
And that sameness is a shallow perception, or a shallow, I call it a shallow quality.
I would argue that the sameness is just an objective property of something fundamental to reality that exists independent of the agents. And that despite a difference in the phenomenological experience of that object, they could still recognize that it's exhibiting the same property.
Yeah, it's because oh, what the fuck? I just got distracted by that.
We should let Danny back in. It's been more than 5 minutes.
I banned all his different accounts, so I would have to unban him, and I'm working on. He must have had like 5 or 6 accounts he came in with. No, he's got to learn a lesson. And anyway,
okay, I don't know what he did wrong. Okay, so
he's being well behaved. He was well behaved in the chat before you kicked him.
What Leo just said about sameness, is anything ever the same unless it's made out of the same exact? I mean, it would have to occupy the same place at the same time.
I would defy sameness or being identical to objects being identical, not as being constructed of the one exact same atoms, because that's obviously impossible, but being identical in all the properties that the object exhibits. So if I took two electrons and put them next to each other, they will both exhibit the exact same mass, the exact same electric charge. Their spins might differ, but that doesn't mean that they're not the same object.
But as soon as they occupy a different space, they're going to be different. As soon as they will be different in the property of location. So as soon as they exist and they're in different spaces, they're different.
No.
Yes.
Maybe how you define different, but not how I defined. Like I said, I define identical as expressing the same general properties.
I guess the question is
impacting them and having an effect on their properties, the properties of the object itself, right?
Wait, what?
As soon as they exist, the environment is having an effect on each individual object in a different way because they're in different positions.
Only on certain observables, not on all observables that could be exhibited by a quantum object.
I wish I knew the terms here because you're like you're
observable.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. You won't let Danny in to do it.
But how is that difference relevant? Is my question.
What difference? Like the difference in the locality?
That they're occupying different spaces, but
it would just be that the property of their locality in space-time is one of the properties that's different. Just like their spin could differ, their position can differ, their momentum can differ, their energy can differ, their time can differ.
But doesn't
they will have the same mass, the same electric charge.
But what's the relevance
of those properties that are different? There really isn't any.
Because I feel like, at least for what we're talking about, is like you just said, the properties are the relevant thing, but they're the same.
Yeah.
How can the properties be? That's what I'm saying. How can the properties be the same if they're occupying different spaces?
Well, I guess not all the properties,
because those properties
like
are
they're functional properties, I suppose.
Okay. I got nowhere else. I got nowhere else to go with this.
Where did it
trying to be to pick your all's brains about it. So
Muta will probably rage quit too.
Oh no, he put okay. Yeah, okay.
Like if you have two tools that are like two hammers that are different make or something, but they both are the same weight. They have the same function. Even though they're in different positions, they're made up of different molecules. Functionally, they're identical.
Yeah, but okay, so
and I would extend the same to like
are we
the conception
are they
of the
existing in
hammer
a vacuum? No, because again, the environments. If they're in different positions, the environment around them is going to affect them and affect their properties directly.
Some of them.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
some
I mean,
of
if
them. Yeah, I
if
know
one
that
hammer
functionally the hammer is going to be the same, but one hammer might break at a 8,000 swings, and the other one might last 55,000 swings because they were in those different locations. So there's going to be differences between them. As soon as they start to exist, they start to diverge. And I say this because I'm an identical twin, and we and my brother were the same egg, and it split in half. So I would like to think that we're different people.
Yeah, so it's a really difficult thing to grasp this differences with sameness. Basically, there's and I've looked for mathematics that expresses this, because in certain networks it would be really helpful. And I think maybe some network theory and graph theory is what I want. But there's there's a difference.
Speaking, I say real quick before what I was trying to say is the math to describe each of the individual same items in different locations. The math to describe those is going to be different. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Go ahead. Speak.
But there's something you want to capture that is also similar. Like if you look at two clusters that to us we would identify as the same thing, yet there are minute differences between them, right? And they sort of hash out so that a human looking at them would say, oh, they look the same. They have the same pattern, right? And yet there's this very fine-grained difference between them. And well, for one thing, they're in different spots. That's one thing. But another thing is they can have very, very, like the hammer that breaks after 8,000 or 8,001 hits, it has very, very fine differences, yet we still see it as a hammer. And that's kind of that's the basis of a human brain, is finding that similarity in the universe. And I believe that similarity actually exists in reality in the universe. And our brains are very good at picking it out. And that's kind of what we do. So you always have to look at the relationship between humans and reality and try to hash it out that way. And it makes a lot more sense. But you know what I mean by, like, there's a homogeneous part of it, and yet it is, a very, very different thing. So it's different and the same at the same time, which is a little hard to, for some reason, hard for us to deal with. And we get into these crazy fucking philosophy talks that go on forever and ever, because we're trying to kill this thing with language. And I think we need more like math to kill it, right? Rather than language. So anyway, but I'm tired. Fucking Danny, did you see the private chat? Speed will ban me. Help me. Help me.
Oh yeah.
It's fucking hilarious. Anyway, I'm trying to teach a kid a lesson. Don't piss the host off. That's a lesson.
He's been doing that's your all's relationship, as he comes in here and pisses you off and everybody laughs. It's
well, he fucking cut me off before I even got a sentence out, and fuck him. If you want to be an asshole, go find somebody else to be an asshole with. I don't need
I thought y'all were doing a little better lately.
Well, yeah, we do when he calms down. He's off the Adderall, but when he's all jacked up, he's fucking private. Anyway, yep. Anything else, Leo? Should we end this thing? Can I go to bed or go watch TV or something? What the hell?
Can Leo hear us?
Huh?
Can Leo hear us?
Is Leo listening to a different stream again?
He is. So, Brian, my bugs have gone away. and my Venus flytrap is hungry. What do I do? It got cooler again, so the bugs went away.
I'll tell you what, guys.
What?
I just popped into Sal's after show here on YouTube to see.
Oh yeah, there's some great.
Right as I popped in, John's going off about consciousness causes collapse.
Oh yeah, good.
God.
You got to go check it out.
I've been in the side chat.
That's your
They just
jam,
cannot
Leo.
get that.
Yeah, it's good. So when is Praise getting his regular channel back? I thought it was supposed to be May or something like that. Praise has got a stream going too.
Are you talking to me? What?
No, I'm just chatting. Nephilim also has a fucking stream going. So Nephilim seems a little tipsy lately on his streams. Or is that just me? I mean, he was like...
Lately?
Yeah, he's like slurring. Either he's in really bad health or he gets really drunk before he starts the stream. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. He could be in bad health. I hope he's okay. I like Neff. In some weird fashion, I like Neff. I just can't. I can't talk to him on a stream because he becomes impossible to deal with. But anyway, so bugs, man, it's bug season. I'm really excited.
Well, you
Yeah,
can
it's
get
cooler up there for the next couple of days, isn't it, Speed?
Yeah, it is until it's going to start warming up here tomorrow. So maybe I'll get some bugs tomorrow night.
Where's your fly trap at?
I've got a yard light, like I've got a cat yard, with a fence all around it. And I've got a light out there. I got a light out there, but then I have a 55-gallon garbage pail barrel that I have tilted sideways, and I have a light on the inside of it. And I take a clear plastic gigantic bag from Home Depot, and I fold it in there, and then I attract a bunch of bugs, and then I close it up and let the air out and put it in the freezer. And I feel bad every time I do it. I don't know why. They're bugs. Jesus. Getting really soft. But anyway, I have to do it. And like in the summer, I will collect like 500 insects in one night, so I don't have to do it too often because it takes a long time to sort and mess with 500 insects. And I'm really crap at classifying them, but maybe you can help me out with some of that stuff.
I like to classify them. Hey, Jefferson.
Howdy.
Yeah, Jefferson. Hey.
I know you guys are probably getting close to wrapping this up, but I wanted to link to jump in. I thought you guys might have been, or at least I don't know if any of you guys would be interested in this, but I'm kind of Gavin challenged me to a debate again.
Oh no! Yeah, he also challenged. I think he challenged who else today? There's somebody else. It was you. Somebody else mentioned it too.
Okay. It was weird because I got this, and it came up on a stream yesterday. Somebody said something about he challenged John Peterson. John Peterson's been off social media for a month.
John talked to me today.
Okay,
John, yeah, he was the one.
And he was like, he came back. It was an invitation from last October, and then Gavin emails him and CC'd me on it. Right. And he's like, hey, do you want to have that debate after all about the Abrahamic God? Well, we can do it on Jefferson's channel. And I'm like, well, way to invite yourself to into my moderation. Okay.
Here's the thing about that. Gavin, a long time ago, he wanted to debate me, and he kept bugging me in chat and saying I was a coward. And all. So I said, okay, fine, let's debate. And we had it all set up. And then he started fucking with me on the time and the topic and a whole bunch of stuff. And then he quit responding. And then about 2 months later, out of the blue, he's like, hey, when are we having that debate? And then he starts talking about how I chickened out in chat. And I'm like, it was like ancient history at that point, right? So every 2 months, Gavin gets this hair up his ass, and he goes around and he repicks the fight, right? But then try to pin him down on actually showing up. And
what was the topic you were going to debate?
I think it was what the hell was atheism? I think it was just atheism and theism versus theism.
Yeah. Is atheism bad?
I think it's bad. Atheism bad. Don't do atheism.
So I've had a little bit of a back and forth with them because they want to set this up on SFT's channel, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
and he's like, and he had mentioned he wanted to do something about the resurrection. I'm like, okay, well, if you come up with a debate topic, let's do it. His debate topic is the resurrection, and I'm like, that's not a debate topic. That's a noun, right? I'm like, so he comes back. So I'm like, this isn't going to work. So Praise had suggested was the resurrection an invention? And I'm like, no, that's too loaded. That's not a good debate topic either. There's too much to unpack in the proposition.
Right.
And then so he comes back and Gavin's like, well, here's what we're going to do. It's going to be 10-minute introductions, 10 to 12 minutes introductions, 10 to 12 minutes of cross-examination. And the topic's going to be the resurrection - true or false. And I'm like, you moron. That's the that's the same thing. I just that is not a debate topic.
Was the resurrection a novel convention?
Right. It's like what do you want to debate? Whether it's historicity? Do you want to debate it as a theological assertion? Do you want to compare its status as a theological assertion versus its status as a historical fact? Like William Lane Craig and Bart Ehrman end up debating. What do you want to do with this? This, it's the resurrection. Thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm anti-resurrection. That doesn't mean anything, right? Oh my God!
When Leo and I debated him on, I don't even know where the hell it was. Where was that, Leo? Was that on SFT's channel?
Debated who? Praise and Gavin.
Praise and Gavin. Yeah,
that was on SFT's channel. I did want to say just really quickly that just because I've been listening in on the discussion with Sal, that he was talking about how our channel is biased and we don't really have a respect for the science.
Oh yeah, right. So
Anyway,
said that?
yes.
After today, after I took him down, I took down every
because John said that Sal triggered us or something like that.
Oh, he triggered us.
Who is Sal? What's his deal?
Sal Cordova.
Sal Cordova. He's a young Earth creationist that works for John Sanford, or he did. I think his contract expired, but he works on. He picks out little arcane details about biochemistry and tries to. And he comes off as really fair, but he always finds something that's couldn't possibly happen with evolution. He's a young Earth creationist. And today I took down every aspect of his attack on evolution. Every one I found. And I was very nice about it. And I was very, did not say anything bad about Sal. In fact, said good things about him. And they claim I'm triggered. Well, fine.
So is Sal's job basically to go through scientific literature and look for things that support Sanford's theories? Is that basically what his job is?
On one of his things with that Emery Moyna guy, he said I Googled evolution nonsense and came up with this paper, right? So that's what he Googles. So he looks for the ways it can't happen. He doesn't look for the ways it can. And that is, and it's pretty easy. Like when
we all do that. I mean, we all have our own biases. What keyword we use when we look up. And if you're looking for something that supports your theory, you're going to look up, people getting these kind of results on their test or whatever. I want to be charitable there and say that.
No, there's something different about it. There's something. What now?
Danny's going off and Sal's chat about how you banned him.
Wait, good. I don't understand this, and maybe you're probably tired of maybe explaining yourself, but you guys have this on again, off again relationship speed.
Me and Danny?
Yeah, you and Danny. What did he do this time to get
on again? I don't know if it's ever been on again. I think it's always been off again.
My bad. Yeah, maybe it's not an on again, off again relationship.
When he's respectful and he's willing to listen to me, then we have a good conversation. But I started saying something, and right at the end of the sentence, he made some fucking bullshit insult and calls me everything I say gibberish or nonsense, and then I boot him. I boot him every fucking time, and he doesn't get it. He doesn't get that he can't come here and do this fucking song and dance that he does. You can come here and you can take me on my ideas, and you can discuss things with me. But if you start fucking saying nasty things to me, it's my channel. I'm going to boot you.
Well, it turns out that's been what I've been able to do with Darth, because he's shown up twice on my channel, and Well, no, I didn't. No, he runs. I've never. I don't boot people. So he shows up and he'll start talking about like, I'm not giving him enough time to talk. I'm like, if I have to listen to you talk about how you're being treated, I will remove you. And then at that point he leaves. Like I'm not going to listen to you snowflake on my channel and waste a bunch of time.
Yeah,
and he did that today.
There's only you know, I banned Smokey and Danny is temporarily banned. Just he came on with 5 different accounts in the back room and I kept throwing them out. And so I had to ban every fucking account. And he finally got tired of creating new accounts, so he finally left and went over and bitched about me. I just don't need it, you know. And he wasn't really adding anything to the conversation other than confusion, as far as I could tell.
I mean, I was having a pretty good discussion with him.
Yeah, well, I think you and Immutable and Brainbug and Snake, you guys had a good discussion too. Yeah. What do we need Danny for?
Just adds more.
Yeah, he adds more.
A little more grit. I had to fabricate grit. I had to fabricate a disagreement. Just pontificating, just on ideas, you know. But
or to pitch it for Danny.
Danny also has a graduate degree, or is getting a graduate degree in philosophy. So,
Brainbug, you are hired.
I do value his opinion.
You are hired as
philosophical matters.
Oh, Leo, hang on. You are hired as proxy Danny, Brian.
Well, I'll tell you what, the video I did this morning, or not video, the stream I did this morning, I said that I'm so tired of talking about philosophy.
I know. Yeah.
What is if Danny's getting a master's degree in philosophy, what is he kind of angling for? Is he like classical, analytical? What's he doing?
Analytical, I think.
Okay.
I think Danny just likes to play. I really do. I think he likes to. He think it's fun. It is fun to, pick at people a little bit.
Yeah, we have fun. You know, this thing between us is sort of. I think it's funny. It's mostly playing, but I mean, it's sometimes I just
guys.
I'm faster than he is. I can fucking remove him faster than he can fucking say I'm talking gibberish. So
guys,
fuck him.
Okay. Oh, you should see the stream. Danny and John and good old Quantum John here are just buddy right now.
Quantum John.
Yeah, that's what I call
it. What is this? Okay, he was going.
That's the link that Leo put in the chat there.
Yeah, because you asked for a link to his channel, and I was at the video, so I figured to give you a link to the video. And then that evidence and reasons that's Sal's channel. But yeah, they were just acting all buddy.
Me and Sal's channels are about the same size.
Yeah, it's all one.
I got a little bump off my debate last night.
Yeah, I didn't even catch that. Who were you debating?
It's actually,
I saw the end.
Flat Earth Aussie.
Oh hell!
Chick, no, not chick. Some.
That's
dude
why anytime I see Flat Earth in a debate title, I don't waste my time.
One of the biggest reasons I did it is because it was a 3 versus 3. So I was like, and then I was with Paul Camish and Dapper Dino. So I was like, yeah, I can. This will be.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really that bad of a discussion. They really didn't understand math.
Yeah.
They just did not understand math or logic. Like the one dude kept talking about math and logic and was going off about logic this and logic that. And I asked him a question, and I don't remember what it was, but it was a question that related to logic. And he made some statement about logic in applying to something or what have you. And I said, well, what kind of logic are you talking? He's like, what do you mean? I'm just logic. And I was like, yeah, but what kind? And then he was kind of like scoffing at the fact that I was thinking that there was more than one kind of logic. And then that's when I was like, so are you talking about like mathematical logic, modal logic, meta logic, non-classical logic? Like, what are we working with here? And he just looked baffled. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is insane. Man, when people say, Dunning-Kruger is highest in flat earthers.
Dude, if you said that to me, you know what I would say? My answer would be, I guess I'll have to look into that and get back to you because I'm not sure which kind of logic I'm referring to. It doesn't matter with the topic. I don't know what type of logic my arguments come from. I
asked Bev, and it's a dude, but I don't know. Bev must be short for. I think it's like an acronym for something. I don't know. But he had a graph up, and there was like a curve on it. And we were talking about, I think, like triangulation or something, and how can you do like long distance triangulation if the Earth is curved. And well, first off, there are ways that you can actually mathematically account for Earth's curvature because we know what it is. But number two, I asked him to draw a secant line through 2 points on that curve, and he started rambling off about something, and I was like, no, Bev, I asked, can you draw a secant line through 2 points on the curve, just anywhere, just draw a nice secant line. And he kept rambling on, and I was like, I don't think you understand what I'm asking you, do you? He did not know what I meant when I asked him to draw me a secant line, which is a line that is drawn straight. If you have like a curve, it's a line that's drawn straight that intersects that curve at 2 points.
Yeah.
That would be a secant line. And then a tangent line would be a line that touches a curve right at a point.
Hey, Amy Newman has a live stream right now, anti-theism, that might be interesting. I think we should wrap it up. What do you think? There's enough stuff going on out there right now that everybody will have something to watch. So, Leo?
Yes?
You want to wrap it up?
Wrap what up?
This thing.
What am I doing? I'm confused. I'm so
I want to go undead, and we could talk for a minute about what happened earlier.
Okay.
But, okay. So we're going to wrap this up for the night, and goodbye, cruel world. Oh my, am I going to end right now? I think I am.
Peace out, everybody.